Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. Stand by for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate. I'm your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. It's your show too, so get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Tuesday, November the 18th. Here's what's coming up. While everyone raves about Shabana Mahmood's tough-talking migrant crisis crackdown yesterday, let's remember this stupid country will still continue to shower foreigners who break into Britain illegally with unrivalled generosity not seen anywhere else in the world. Free accommodation, free food, free doctors, free dentists, free lawyers and 50 quid a week welfare money. The Home Secretary is merely proposing that the benefits paid to cross-channel small boaters will cease to be automatic, but will still be doled out to everyone who needs it. Not exactly draconian, is it? But here's the thing. In the speech that brought down the House of Commons, there was no mention of what to do about people we know nothing about. In other words, it seems certain that thousands and thousands of undocumented young men will carry on being let into the UK, basically, no questions asked, and then put into hotels, houses of multiple occupation and converted military camps, such as Britain's biggest asylum centre at Weatherfield in Essex, where the 800 or so male residents are apparently having a whale of a time at our expense. Tonight I'll show you video footage filmed inside the walls of this former RAF base in scenes of real-life drama you might call War and Peace. A party and then a punch-up. Oh, what fun they're having. 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, livid local residents are waging a Stop the Buses campaign in a bid to put a halt to the hordes of migrants being ferried into nearby towns. This is what the migrant crisis is doing to communities all across the land, folks. If Shabana's desperate measures don't work, which they won't, this alone will lose Labour the next election. 0344 499 1000. In other news, shocking new statistics reveal that of the 17,000 or so migrants secretly thrown out of Afghanistan and resettled in Britain, an alarming number had committed extremely serious crimes. 28 have been arrested for violence, weapons-based crimes, terrorism, extremism and sex offences. And still they came. So these were people whose lives were put at risk by the bungling Ministry of Defence's massive data breach, which flagged possible British collaborators to the Taliban. Remember all those Tory ministers, Ben Wallace, Michael Gove and the gang, patting themselves on the back, congratulating each other for doing the right thing, as in putting violent sex offender terrorist extremists among British citizens and not telling them. Was that the right thing to do? 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, Labour unravels over Shabana Mahmood's migrant crisis crackdown. Why it's not like the Home Secretary's desperate measures are going to make much difference. Not while we stay in the European Convention of Human Rights. Why are they getting so worked up? It ain't going to happen, folks. 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, two-tier Keir insists he'll lead his bitterly divided party into the next election. Good luck with that, Starmer. No chance. 0344 499 1000. Plus, a snapshot of modern Britain as metal detectors are installed at a major West Midlands school to prevent kids carrying knives into the classroom. Isn't that special? 0344 499 1000. And finally, surely it's time to axe the TV licence. Let the BBC stand on its own 2 financial feet and make as many massive balls-ups as it likes. Unfunded by the long-suffering British public. I'll host a debate on this burning post-Trump issue later in the show. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Tuesday night together and let's go straight over to my first guest. He is barrister and broadcaster, social commentator, political commentator, Stephen Barrett. Welcome, Stephen.
Hi, good evening. It's a pleasure, as always.
Listen, I was going to kick off on foreign aid. We'll get to that in 1 second. But this has only cropped up this afternoon. Quite worrying. You know, in 2021, it turned out that our bungling Ministry of Defence had somehow or other managed to breach or organise a massive data breach, which allowed the Taliban to see or to try to work out which people in Afghanistan had collaborated with the British during the war. 17,000 were put at risk by this. So all these ministers, you know, Ben Wallace, remember, in the Defence Secretary, Michael Gove, they organised this secret airlift of all these 17,000 planes full of them coming into the country without telling British citizens. And they're all very proud of this. I'd do it again, they all said. I'd do it again. It was the right thing to do. Those people's lives were put at risk. Yes, yes, yes. Well, OK, fair enough. Nobody wants to see anybody killed. But it now turns out that among these 17,000, the British authorities knew were some very, very serious criminals. 28 of them were sex offenders, they were extremists, terrorists, weapons offenders, and so on and so forth. Very, very serious criminals. They knew about this, and they flew them into Britain anyway, and they now live amongst us. So when Ben Wallace and Michael Gove and Rishi Sunak and all the gang say, we did the right thing, Boris as well, we did the right thing, not telling British people that they were sticking extremely dangerous people amongst us. Do you think it was the right thing?
No, it's obviously not the right thing. And there will almost certainly be members of the Taliban in that list. And there's quite a lot of suspicion about that list. I don't even know how it got leaked. Anyway, the premise is absurd. The Taliban gets sent a list. OK, well, that's a bit David Lammy-like. But, you know, it's not the end of the world. They're not just going to murder all those people. The idea is absurd. And we also can't just keep taking sides in international conflict. If these people are opponents of the Taliban, and the Taliban have temporarily won, if you take 17,000 of them and they'll be fighting-age men, then you're actually helping the Taliban because they're less likely to oppose the Taliban militarily in future. You're making their job harder. If we take in the losing side in the French Civil War, we're making the winning side an awful lot stronger. This is just simply imperial meddling. And what is happening is that our elite falling for this nonsense hook, line and sinker simply because they don't give a toss about us. That's
exactly right, Stephen. That's the point. They said, oh, well, the thing is, all these 17,000, these poor Afghanis. I mean, I get the point. Their lives were put at risk by this pathetic, bungling Ministry of Defence data breach. The Taliban got to see who may have collaborated with the British during the war. So I get that point. So, yeah, oh, we've got to save their lives. It's our responsibility. Well, if you're going to stick people who have committed crimes of extreme violence, weapons-based crimes, terrorism, extremism and sex offences among us, then never mind their lives, you're putting our lives at risk. These politicians, that Wallace and the gang, oh, we did the right thing. This is a disgrace.
They knew that they weren't doing the right thing, which is why they went to the High Court and they got a super injunction to stop us knowing. They spent our money to ensure that the court said that we weren't allowed to know. And the only reason we know anything about this is because eventually the courts went, do you know what, mates? This is really not on, and refused to allow them to have an ongoing super injunction. They wanted to both do this, believing that it would make them morally superior, but to never, ever tell us. So that strikes me, Kev, as a conspiracy. I mean, that I don't understand how to put that in any other way. You conspired to do this in secret. You did it for your own political, moral beliefs. You know we don't agree with you, and you're using our money to hide it from us. I mean, now it's an absolute disgrace.
It is a disgrace, and now we're finding out exactly what it was that they were keeping secret from us. They were keeping secret from the people of this country that they were putting amongst us extremely dangerous people. People who have committed crimes of violence with guns, sex offenders, extremists, terrorists. They didn't tell us that. They thought that was okay. Just don't tell them. Let's get an injunction. Don't tell people. That is an abrogation of governmental duty on an epic scale, if you ask me. The primary job of a government is to keep its citizens safe. And here was this government, the government of our country then, putting amongst us people who put us at risk. Absolutely outrageous.
And isn't it particularly telling that that policy would be exactly the same under this Labour government? There is no policy gap between the previous Conservative government and the incoming Labour one. And they're both running the country, they both ran the country or are running the country really badly. The civil servants are incompetent. I mean, I still don't think it's entirely out of the question to suggest that the civil service did that deliberately. It seems to me that there is a cult that just wants migration in this country. And no matter how much we say, terribly sorry, we really don't want it anymore. I do think we've had enough. You know, they just don't listen to us, Kev, do they? We have been excessively polite about this, and it may well be time that our politeness ends, because this is just a joke, and they cannot use our money this way. We don't have any money. We're bust, so we don't owe the world. I don't accept a moral obligation to get involved at all. I don't expect any other nation to get involved with us, and I note that they don't. Yeah. I mean, the Trump administration has floated the idea of asylum for political Brits, which I think is very touching and sweet, but I don't think he genuinely means it. Nobody would look after us if bad things happen to us. So why are we doing this? It's madness.
It is madness. Let me know, folks, what you think about this. I mean, they already kept us in the dark about who they were letting in. We didn't even know that these 17,000 people were being airlifted in to the country week in, week out. For 4 years. For 4 years this happened, from 2021 until 2025. This year, in fact, up until July. They kept on doing it, and we didn't know. Now we're finding out that among the people they didn't tell us about were extremely dangerous people that put our lives at risk. Don't forget also, most of these Afghanis were given priority housing over British citizens and even other migrants waiting for houses. These people, the Afghanis, the data breach Afghanis, went right to the top of the list, and many of them were given the right to claim benefits for the rest of their lives and never have to work. This is extraordinary, folks. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Now, I want to talk about also, because I'm trying to squeeze a lot in with you tonight, Stephen, Nigel Farage has proposed reducing our, currently it's around about 13 billion pounds a year, our foreign aid budget to 1 billion. In the past, it's been as high as 15 billion. They're bringing it down. The plan is to get it down to 9 billion by 2028. I say, given the state of this country, given how much people are suffering, our people, British people, I say get rid of foreign aid altogether and spend this money on us. OK, fine, take it down to 1 billion. I say take it down to 0, but if another country has got an emergency, a humanitarian crisis, obviously we step in to help. We step in to help as and when. We do not do it by rote. You know, we've got the International Development Secretary is the only government minister who has to go before Parliament to explain why he hasn't spent enough. They literally have to reach quotas of spending. It is madness. So I'm just going to quickly, by way of illustrating the madness of foreign aid, I'm going to read through a list, just a direct list. 1. 5.2 million funding Ethiopia's Spice Girls, a pop group called Yegna. That's 1. 2, UK taxpayers are on the hook for millions of pounds to promote contraception in Pakistan. 74.33 million being splashed out to project the sale of branded contraceptives through shops and pharmacies. And in fact, the entire bill for helping Pakistani Family planning is £111 million. That's what we're sending them. 3. £114 million on inclusive green enterprises in India. 4. 9.5 million accountability and inclusion projects in the Congo. What does that even mean? 5 million on transforming feminist funding in Iraq. £500,000 on a fleet of Porsches for Albanian jails. £500,000 to pay for a women's affairs director for the military in Jordan. £264,000 studying disinformation in Ethiopia. £233,000 on mental health research in Colombia. £133,000 studying shrimp health, the health of shellfish in Bangladesh. £110,000 on a gender disinformation conference in Kenya, and £44,000 studying Thailand's alcohol policies. I remember another one off the top of my head. It was, I believe it was money. I'm not sure how much we sent, but we sent a considerable amount of money to Tanzania to give them dancing and juggling lessons. And on this madness goes. Get rid of all of this. Stop this. You know, we gave China a load of money to teach the peasants how to grow rice. I would have thought they might have known that anyway. We sent loads of money to India, which has its own space program. This is madness. This is madness. Stop it. No, Nigel Farage says, let's get it down to $1 billion. I say, let's get it down to nothing.
Yeah, well, this is what happens when your politics becomes a replacement religion. And so for the liberal elite on the left, you know, they're the Fabians. On the Conservative Party, they're the people who decided they needed to pretend to believe all of these things. Because I don't think many of them still just pretend. I'm not entirely sure they do actually genuinely believe that this is a good idea. David Cameron was famously caught on camera at a Buckingham Palace event saying, well, of course, they're all terribly corrupt. And then it was like, oh, you're on camera, Prime Minister. And we all had to pretend that he hadn't said that. Yeah. So I do think that there's a high degree of scepticism. But this sort of performative nonsense where power has simply passed between the uniparty to two political parties effectively being identical in their policy platforms and then lying to the public about what their policy platforms are, this charade was never going to be sustainable, and it is really going to smash right into a brick wall of reality called we haven't got any money. Because I've got this little thing going on Twitter where I like to point out that we have 8 days until Rachel destroys the country. That's how long we have. We haven't got any money. And all of these people patting themselves on the back because they helped, you know, dance lessons in Tanzania. By the way, Tanzania is a thoroughly developing and pretty developed country with a very successful capital city. I've been there, I've done legal work there, thriving culture, and one of the most beautiful places in the world in the islands of Zanzibar. But they don't need help knowing how to dance. Yeah. I think that's probably the last thing that you need to teach the Tanzanians how to do. But of course it's all tosh, and it's got to smash into the brick wall of reality because it just can't go on this way. And I don't care how we get there, but somebody has to go, this is nonsense. And Nigel's being very bold and cutting it down to $1 billion. I suspect by the time we're actually facing an election, Nigel will say none. Because I think none is going to be the rational position. We shouldn't give money away. We certainly shouldn't give money away to Pakistan, who we take a vast amount of refugees from. So we should just say to them, no more money until you treat your people better. Pakistan
perennially is the biggest beneficiary of our generosity. We send the most money to Pakistan, huge amounts. I think it was back in 2019, it was over £300 million. Last year, I think it was 133 million. We're sending a lot of money to Pakistan. Quite why that's at the top of the list, I don't know. But politicians, the traditional politicians, the Camerons of this world, will tell you. Well, the thing is, you know, it smooths the international wheels. It's a form of soft diplomacy. That's why we give money to India, even though it doesn't need it. That's why we give money to China, even though it doesn't need it, because it smooths the wheels of diplomacy. Well, let me tell you, that's not good enough. That's, I don't, you know, you people in Westminster should not be impoverishing British people just because foreign aid makes your life a bit easier. Do your job properly and don't take taxpayers' money to make it easier. That is not a good enough excuse. It's a disgrace. It really is. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk about Shabana Mahmood's alleged hardline migrant crisis crackdown and how it's causing Labour to completely unravel, of course. That next. Stay tuned.
In terms of your question around taxes, there are no additional tax rises needed beyond the ones that I've set out.
Don't need to increase taxes.
I'm not coming back with more borrowing or more taxes. I will not increase your national insurance. I will not increase your VAT, and I will not increase your income tax.
We don't need to come back for more. We've done that now. We've wiped the slate clean.
The economic circumstances have declined, deteriorated since a year ago. We are having to look at taxes and spending.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with barrister and broadcaster Stephen Barrett. Stephen, everybody seems to be reeling back in amazement after Shabana Mahmood's speech that brought the House of Commons down yesterday. Oh, a marvellous crackdown. Oh, she's almost like a Tory or reform or something. Well, I don't know. I mean, you know, it sounded good. Stella Creasy called it performative cruelty. I rather like that phrase. I think it was just performative. It was performative headline hunting. It'll get a lot of headlines. It's got a lot of headlines. There's no substance to it. It's just a lot of announcements that she's going to have to get through the Commons. I think she will struggle to do that. But even if she does get it through, you know, how, for example, when she says, oh, migrants, if they come from a war-torn country, will monitor their war-torn countries, and if they stop being war-torn, we'll send them home. Who's going to do that? It's not going to happen, is it? And by the way, she said, yeah, we're going to have a look at the fact that we automatically give all asylum seekers £50 a week benefit. So we've got to have a look at that. We shouldn't give it to any migrants. This is a quote. I'm not joking. We shouldn't give it to any migrants unless they need it. And so on and so forth. So, I don't think it is all that tough. You know, we will continue to be the most ludicrously generous country on the face of the earth when it comes to showering people who break into Britain illegally with generosity. We will continue to give them free accommodation, free food, free doctors, free dentists. Most of them will continue to get that 50 quid a week. They'll get free lawyers, free phones, free driving lessons, and so much more. So quite why everybody says, oh, this is a hell of a crackdown. it's a slight improvement. It's not much of a crackdown. And as I said in my monologue, the thing that worries me, Stephen, is there's no proposal about actually stopping the boats or deporting anyone. In fact, there's a proposal to open up more legal routes. I don't quite know how that helps. But the main omission, the main thing missing that I think we should all be concerned about is there's no proposal about how to check on these people. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of undocumented young men being let into the country year on year and year, all the time. And we know nothing about them. There are hardly any checks. Most of them chuck their documents into the English Channel. And then we just allow them in. And guess what? We're now discovering that quite a significant proportion of them seem to commit serious crimes, either charged with or convicted of that. So where was the proposal about that? When are we going to do something about checking on who we let into this country? How about if you cannot prove who you are, then you don't get into the country? How about that? That would be a good crackdown, wouldn't it?
Yep. And we could have rules and we could have a system that worked. It's funny that you say like a Tory, because the previous Tory government had the Rwanda Plan 1, which was doomed to failure and failed, but did spend a number of years distracting us, making us think that something was going to be done. And then their genius idea was to have Rwanda Plan 2, at which point I lost my temper and publicly stated that Rwanda Plan 2 would not work and was doomed to fail, for which I got a lot of not a lot of friendly looks, but it's true. Rwanda Plan 2 didn't actually have the time to fail because there was a general election was suddenly called and a new government came in and scrapped it before it even had the time to fail. The new policy is exactly the same, except it's mildly more sinister, because not only is this another complicated plan designed to fail, it will fail. I could bore your listeners and viewers with how it will do it, but of course it'll be by the ECHR, and there's a number of other mechanisms that mean that this is simply unsustainable. One of the most hilarious things is that she's created a two-tier system of immigrants. And it's almost, I mean, I don't see how everybody isn't. There's a tier that appears to get bad treatment. Okay, there is a tier that, look, first of all, that's going to get challenged in the courts. And the courts are going to say, no, you can't treat them any differently. You have to treat them all the same. But actually, even as it's structured, I don't see how anybody's getting into that tier. Because these will be treated as families. And as long as you have somebody in your family in education or employment, you're now getting the special treatment. And in the special treatment tier, you get Rolls-Royce service, you get faster processing, you get a single route of appeal, which we will almost certainly win. You know, it's just going to make more people British citizens, and these safe routes are even more scandalous. They're going to have it so that communities can sponsor people from overseas to get here. So if you get enough people from one community here, they're then going to just lobby to bring more and more of their people here.
Here's what we want, Stephen. Here's what we want.
Balkanisation of Britain. I mean, that's what this is.
I hate the way, particularly Labour, but all these people, safe legal routes. I got a better idea. No legal routes, no routes at all. We need to stop this, not come up with devices by which more and more can be let in. A lot of people saying that, you know, Shabana Mahmood's entire background is very be kind to migrants. You know, she went to the Greek islands to hand out food parcels to illegal migrants from the Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa. She has made speeches. She called for an amnesty on all migrants while she was still a backbencher. Her background is not tough on migrants, it's the opposite. And if you look into the details of what she proposed yesterday with all this safe legal routes claptrap, also talking about setting up hubs abroad and all this kind of stuff, a lot of critics are saying, well, actually, if you look at the details of what she proposed, this is an enshrinement of our asylum seeker system and a way that will guarantee it goes on forever. Far from a crackdown, it is a method by which it will be made eternal.
Yes, and it's an amnesty for all of those migrant men here now. Who she's now got a new campaign today. She's determined to be proud that she's shutting down the hotels where these migrant men live. Of course, what she'll be doing then is giving them free flats. So I really don't see that as an improvement, to be honest, Kev. That's not to my mind better. What we should do is deport these people, although they don't stop people leaving the hotels. So a lot of them just disappear into criminality.
Of course they do, yes, the untold
The only ones who
story.
actually stay, the only ones that we actually monitor are the ones who stay on benefits. And that's about 60% of them. I mean, this is just ridiculous. It's just
so
not
you agree
sustainable.
with me, Stephen, that while, you know, a lot of Tories, Jonathan Gullis, good guy, was standing in for Ian Collins here on Talk this afternoon as I was listening to him at home, and he was raving about it. You know, goes, she's brilliant. She should be in the Tory party. Marvellous. No, Jonathan, you know, if you don't leave the ECHR, none of this can work anyway. And if you look at the details, this isn't a crackdown. This is a continuation. It really, really is. All she's managed to do is enrage the left-wing Labour backbenchers. I don't think there'll be, dozens are up in arms. I don't think there'll be enough to stop this going through. But even if it goes through, which it probably will, I don't think it's going to make much difference at all, do you?
No, and it's not a plan. I hate it when people talk about it being a plan. A grown-up plan would be a bill that I can actually read. You know, I was just maybe I was a bit rude to Rishi Sunak's government, but to his credit, at least they did write a bill that I could read, and then I could work out why it wouldn't work. But, you know, all she's done is written a fairy document, you know, a load of nonsense promises in a PR piece. The first 12 pages, by the way, you don't even have to read them. So people go along and look at this document. Seriously, don't waste your time on the first 12 pages. They're all just crap. They're all just nonsense. You don't actually need them. They're not even detailed about the alleged plan.
Let's call it crap, yeah. Go on.
I don't really get in trouble, but we have to grow up. We have to deal with this problem. The Tory party got an absolute kicking at the last election because it said it was fixing problems when it wasn't. Okay, and the electorate knew that, and that's why the Tory party got so roundly drubbed. That's going to happen to the Labour Party again, and if people are calling for people like Shabana Mahmood to join the Conservative Party, then I'm not sure the Conservative Party will live past the next election, because the last thing we need is people who make false promises with absolutely zero intention of performing.
Absolutely right, and actually she'd fit quite well into the Conservative Party because they've been sort of more left-wing than the Lib Dems for years. That's why they crashed and burned. That's why no one will ever vote for them again, because they forgot what it meant to be a Conservative, the absolute idiots. You know, the migrant crisis, Labour, no mean feat, has made it worse, but never forget the fault lies with the Tories. 14 years of Tory governments who just opened our borders, a travesty for which they will never be forgiven. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Let's go to break, and when we come back, you're going to like this story, or rather you won't. It's the story of a Turkish rapist who looks like he is set to receive compensation from the British taxpayers because while he was waiting for deportation, we put an electronic tag on him and it made him depressed. So we're going to have to pay him some money. Welcome to Modern Britain. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with barrister and broadcaster Stephen Barrett. Stephen, this is the story of a Turkish guy. He's 48 years old now. His name is Mustafa Taskiran. Mustafa Taskiran came to this country in 1994, presumably came a little bit before that, but he was granted indefinite leave to remain in Britain in 1994. After that, over a 10-year period, he committed 54 offences. They tried to deport him in 2009, but that failed, and so he managed to stay. He was in 2014, after we failed to deport him, he was sentenced to 7 years for rape, 7 years in jail. He came out in 2018 and we had another bid to deport him and that failed. We await to get rid of this guy. He's still in this country. 54 offences, 7 years inside for rape, and we can't deport him. While he's awaiting his second decision for deportation, quite why there should be any deliberation or delays is beyond me. He should be out, gone, obviously, but he's waiting for this decision. And since 2018, he's been required to wear a tag. This was a terrible imposition on him, apparently. It made him physically and mentally distressed, and he suffered from depression. A judge has ruled in favour of his claim for compensation for that. In fairness, it was after the judge ruled in favour, only after that, that this guy Taskiran admitted to rape, so the judge did sort of say compensation before that. But if you look back on his history, 54 offences, 7 years in jail, and so on and so forth, you know, what is he still doing here? And are we really going to pay this guy compensation because putting a tag on him made him a bit depressed? This is, you know, ground zero of mad modern Britain, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I'd just like to say we can deport him. Therefore, we are choosing not to. Okay, so the first deportation, we could have deported him. We are choosing not to. They hide and they make the law the sort of the excuse for all of this. Politicians can draft the laws so that we can deport people. It's very simple. I could do it for them if they want to. You know, I'll help them out. Even if the Labour government wants help, I'll draft them to make sure that you can deport people instantly. We are choosing to live this way, Kev. This is a public choice by our elites who want to pat themselves on the back, feel morally superior to the rest of us, and who's at risk? Oh, it's us, not them. I mean, how on earth that poor lady who was raped, I mean, my absolute heart breaks for her. You know, that we fail to deport a criminal and an innocent is raped, and that is not really the country I want to live in. Our government is appalling now, and I think we need to start calling both for the politicians and all of the civil servants to go, because they clearly don't know what they're doing. And if they can't manage to write the system and create the system of laws to a point where we can deport somebody who's obviously this vile to Turkey, which is a major UK holiday destination, I mean, that's just absurd. Yeah. You know, there comes a day when push comes to shove, and I think it's coming, Kev, because I just think we just can't have this anymore. Yeah. You know, what if this was somebody's sister? This will have been somebody's sister, somebody's daughter, maybe somebody's mum. I don't know. They're outrageous that she was raped. This isn't, and we need to stop tutting and rolling our eyes and just going that this is not on.
Yeah, exactly right. Because we allowed this guy to stay, a British woman was raped. You know, and Mr. Justice Lavender is the High Court judge who ruled that Taskiran should be given, and I quote, appropriate relief for the, and again I quote, intense physical and mental distress that the tag caused him. It plunged him into depression, apparently. Now, in fairness to Mr. Justice Lavender, when he made that ruling, it was only when Taskiran had been charged with rape. Subsequent to that ruling, Taskiran confessed to the rape. But that said, Mr. Justice Lavender was aware that he'd committed 54 offences since being allowed to stay in this country. Serious offences. What on earth was he doing saying, let's give this guy compensation? What goes on in these judges' heads?
Well, I can't talk to the specifics of this case because I haven't read it and I haven't got the judgment. But I will flag up that there is a single problem with our judiciary, which is that we are asking them both at appointment stage and at promotion stage to demonstrate a commitment to equality and diversity and inclusion. And the minute you do that, you have politicized your judges and you've politicized them in wokery. But I think all politicization is wrong. If we politicized our judges to the right wing, I wouldn't be happy, Kev. I want impartial judges. And I just flag that the nation needs to pay attention to its judges, because if the judges are doing odd things, they're either doing it because they've gone mad, but then if they keep happening, it can't just be that they're all mad. They're not all going to be bonkers. And so if instead the judges are persistently doing odd and inexplicable things, I can tell you right now that with any human being, it will be because it is in their self-interest so to do. That is how most humans are. And so what we need to do is design a system where the self-interests of all of our judges is towards impartiality and not doing obviously stupid things like this. If he gets compensation, I'll go through the detail and I'll be livid about it too. But I think the major thing is that an innocent woman was raped because the British state is spineless, pathetic and weak.
And this man still has not been deported. It's extraordinary. Do you think, without sort of especially citing this case, well, in a way citing this case, if this guy, this rapist, who said that the tag has made him depressed and claimed compensation, if he was a sort of white working class British bloke, do you think the judge would be less inclined to say he deserves compensation?
I think that's the line we need to pursue and explore and understand if we are ever to get back to the proper rule of law, which is not to have two-tier justice. But there is a reason that the statue on top of the Old Bailey wears a blindfold. You know, that justice needs to be blind again. She needs to not take any of these matters into account. Look at the logic of it, Kevin. I mean, Axel Rudiker-Barner is an absolute monster and is currently incarcerated. What if he starts to argue that being in a prison cell is making him depressed? We're going to give him money too.
Oh, they'll probably let him out.
Well, this is just absurd. This is just, you cannot be this pathetic, spineless and weak forever. And eventually we need to step up. I've got this thing called how many times can you hit a man in Waitrose with your trolley before you die? And a friend of mine calls that concept the exploding doormat, which is what she sees. She's Australian, so she sees all of us English people as that we are basically exploding doormats. We get walked on and walked on and walked on and walked on and walked on. Then we explode and the person who's walking on us dies and they don't understand what just happened to them. And I really suggest we are at that point. This is not on.
I just think that middle-class wokery has become a sickness in this nation. You know, we're all terrified of being called racist or Islamophobic, and that has made us terrified, scared of our own shadows. We have a judiciary making ridiculous decisions, particularly immigration judges, whose decisions are just, you know, beggar belief, to be honest with you. You know, oh, this guy's just done 4 years in jail for child sex abuse. He's a paedophile, very serious paedophile. But he can stay because he's got a right to a family life. Or he can stay because back home in his country, they persecute paedophiles. They take a dim view of paedophilia in Syria or wherever. And it's like, you always want to say, yeah, well, we're not that keen on it here in Britain either. So some of the decisions coming out of our judiciary are, you know, they're an insult to common sense. They really, really are. You know, if this guy gets compensation for being depressed because we gave him a electronic tag, then, you know, I think it is time to all cash in our chips, get on the plane and leave this country forever, because it is going corporately insane. This nonsense has got to stop. Let me know what you think, folks. 0344 499 1000. Are we really going to pay a Turkish rapist compensation because we put an electronic tag on him and that made him depressed? Are we really going to do that? Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. When we come back, Stephen, we'll talk about Keir Starmer, who is vowing to lead us into the next election. Well, he better hope the next election is, you know, December the 2nd or something, because I don't think he's going to make it to 2029. We'll talk about Keir's woes next.
You shouldn't be teaching a small child or inadvertently teaching a small child that if they give their consent, then an adult can touch them. That is the wrong message to send.
It's weird. They've got it completely the wrong way. But again, I'd love to meet these people's kids. I'm telling you right now, they have tantrums in supermarkets and they walk on the table. I'm telling you that right now. I've met these people. I know these kinds of people, and their kids are all absolutely ghastly. I'm a 1950s mum, and I like my kid.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Breaking news, potentially very bad news for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, maybe bad news for Bill Clinton, maybe bad news for all sorts of rich and powerful men. Let's see. But the Congress, the House of Representatives in Washington, the American government has voted to compel the government to release all of the Epstein files. This was something that Donald Trump has been railing against, but has dramatically changed his mind in the last couple of days. So all of the Epstein files, which have been dripped out bit by bit by bit over the past painful year or so, will now be released at once. God knows what lurks in those files, but it could be dreadful news for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. We'll have to see if we can take another name off him. You know, we can't strip him of anything else, so we'll now call him Andy Wins or something like that. You know, to keep cutting his name back till in the end he's just called And. And lives in a tent somewhere. But seriously, it could be very bad news for him. It could be bad news for Bill Clinton. This allegedly will finally reveal the full truth, the whole truth about what went on in the evil web spun by convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, and what went on that hellish pedo island of his down in the Caribbean, and on his private jet they called the Lolita Express. Lots of young women being defiled by old, rich and powerful men. Lovely story, isn't it? Yes, so all those files will now be released. Major story in America. Let's go back to domestic affairs, and let's talk still to barrister and broadcaster Stephen Barrett. Yeah, Stephen, politically, Keir Starmer, very strange, I thought. So we have this big announcement by Shabana Mahmood, tough-talking, hard as nails. The Terminator Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, is not going to solve anything, but she pretended. But anyway, it should have been her day, you know, and to a large extent it sort of was. But suddenly, pick up the Daily Mirror today, all over the front page, Keir Starmer, I'm not going anywhere, I'm going to fight the next election, stealing a march on his Home Secretary to announce that he fully intends to leave Labour into the next election. Well, good luck with that, mate. I mean, a lot of people think he won't make Christmas. I think he will. I think he'll go after the May elections. But he's got about as much chance of leading Labour into the next election in 2029 as I have. It's ridiculous.
I think you're just such a crushing optimist, Kev. I genuinely think that the budget next week is going to have huge ramifications. I think almost certainly Rachel won't survive it. And if Rachel goes, then I think Keir goes. And I think it should be really should be that simple. He's got no divine right to rule us. He didn't take my constitutional advice, and they sort of mocked me and were a bit rude when they got in. But they have record low levels of the vote. That means that you're a pretty illegitimate government. And the comparative government in modern times is the Cameron coalition, again, which it's just a low legitimacy government. When you're a coalition, it's sort of obvious to you because you can't actually form a government on your own. Right. But Labour was able to form a government, but with a majority that was an ocean wide and puddle thin. And they should have been much more cautious on their policy policy platform. They should have been aware that there is this constitutional concept called legitimacy, which he's just run through. I mean, what legitimacy does he have to secretly push for mass state killing? What legitimacy does he have to have abortion up until birth? What legitimacy does he have to give away and pay to give away our Chagos Islands while betraying the Chagos Islanders? He's doing all of these terribly dramatic things that actually a government that had a high level of legitimacy, so that received way more of the popular vote than he received. Remember, he actually received fewer votes than Jeremy Corbyn in the preceding election, which Jeremy Corbyn lost.
Yeah.
So, you know, he was doing things that are so dramatic that I think they would shake a high legitimacy government, and he's doing it from the absolute position of total weakness. You know, he obviously thinks he's God's gift to something, and the rest of us are just going, no, mate, you're just awful. You're weak, you're pathetic. Free the sausages. You know, this is just...
But it's obviously so desperate, though, that, you know, while Shabala Mahmood's unveiling, you know, ostensibly a very important series of proposals about the migrant crisis. I mean, I don't think they're any good, but it is an important initiative in terms of the government. So it's important for the government. And meanwhile, the Prime Minister hogs the front page of the Mirror to say, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to lead Labour into the next election. That is the move of an extremely desperate, extremely worried, extremely weak Prime Minister.
Yes, well, I'm afraid I may have mildly teased him, because I may have put out a tweet saying that it was the kiss of death because Keir Starmer has full confidence in Keir Starmer.
Himself. Yeah, you know what? Nobody wants Starmer's confidence.
No, please don't have full confidence in me.
Ask Angela Rayner, ask Peter Mandelson. I think Morgan McSweeney's going to find out that Keir Starmer's vote of confidence means you're getting the sack fairly soon. And you're right, he's given himself a full vote of confidence. He'll be the latest victim of the Starmer curse of confidence, won't he?
Yes, he will. And I really do think we need to pay attention to the budget. I think because they've been leaking like a sieve. Even the Common Speaker, who's, let's face it, not a terribly proactive Common Speaker in terms of defending the House, got a bit rattled that she keeps briefing things about the budget to the press, which you're not supposed to do, because the budget, changes the economy and could give people commercial advantage. So you do it all in one go in the House of Commons. That's why we have this tradition, so that everybody finds out at the fair time, in a fair way at the same time. But, you know, this budget is... the things that she's leaked have already hurt the economy. The minute I can tell you right now, knowing the world of high net worth individuals that I do, the minute that she floated an exit tax, half of the people who were sat there going, maybe I won't leave, went, yeah, okay, let's go now.
Well, that's it, yeah, straw that breaks the camel's back, I'm off now. I mean, that's it. This budget, although she's railed back on the income tax, I mean, it might have been better. I mean, I'm not a fan of putting income tax up, obviously, and that would be an egregious breaking of their manifesto pledge, but it might have been for the best, because what she's going to bring in now is a kind of mosaic, a smorgasbord of tiny taxes that are bound to be very complicated, may well not work very well, and will alienate vast sections of the country. So her replacement for a single simple income tax rise is a mosaic of mess.
Yeah, and this is why, you know, we're actually past peak taxation, as in we have taxes so high that they actually hurt the amount of tax money we raise. There is a sort of sweet spot for taxation, and it's lower than where we are now. So if we raise taxes again, we're going to raise even less money in tax. That's simply what happens. Humans are a very predictable species. The Laffer curve is a real thing, and sensible people, including Tony Blair, govern on the basis of it. You know, sensible Labour Party would govern on the basis of the Laffer curve. It's just human nature. There's no reason to pretend it doesn't exist. But this Labour Party wants to pretend it doesn't exist. It has no money. It has a declining tax base. Everything it's saying is hurting the economy. She's destroyed jobs. She's destroyed private sector employment. She's scared off wealthy people. We've had a massive dump of stocks recently. That was reported today. Stocks and shares. And I know people are just dumping stuff because they don't want to be holding UK assets when the things hit the fan. And I really think people just need to pay way more attention to next Wednesday. I think it's going to be... I don't know why I sound gleeful, because it's almost like it's just the country's just going to go boom. Well, but I do think it'll be the end of him.
So you genuinely think that? I mean, he's been using Rachel Reeves, Rachel from Accounts, for some time as like a human shield. Don't blame me. Look, the Chancellor's going to make another announcement you're going to hate. Now, all of the Chancellor's announcements for the last 3-4 months have not really been hers. I mean, this isn't really her budget, it's Keir Starmer's. And his his ongoing bid to use her as a protective shield, don't blame me, blame that woman who's messing up the economy. That is going to end come the budget. So you think that will mean the axe will fall for her and by extension him? I mean, I suspect that what might happen as his last desperate move, he'll replace her and say, stick with me, but you reckon they'll both have to go?
Well, the markets won't rally, is my take, Kev. That's my personal private view, and I'm not even an expert in these matters. So, bear in mind when people hear it. But I personally think that he will not survive the loss of his Chancellor. It's not my fault, Gov. It's the point of that woman that I was so excited and appointed and made her Chancellor, and we've only been in office for 15, 16 months, however many it is, and I've backed her all the way. No, it's just not gonna fly. So I really think this budget is absolute calamity time, and I sort of think they hope that something dramatic will happen to stop us paying any attention to it. But it's just the markets are going to have a field day, and very sadly, people's lives are going to be destroyed. People will lose employment. People will lose businesses. This is the natural consequence of governing badly. But I think somehow, Kev, a generation needs to see the natural consequences of governing badly before they learn the importance of governing well again. I mean, I'm very lucky in a way in that I didn't sort of know the terrors of the 70s and the real badness of it. But I had a pretty rough life in the 80s that got progressively better because we were well governed. And then we got to the 90s and things are really great because we've been well governed. And, I've been watching us sort of tread water throughout the noughties and then decline ever since the financial crash. And I think a whole generation needs to know that governance is a real thing. It does matter whether we know where immigrants are or aren't. It does matter whether we don't. It turns out that when people leave this country, we don't know where they go. So this is just basic governance.
And the markets need to have faith in the Chancellor. And they've lost complete faith in her, which is why I think you're right. Her days must be numbered, because the government can't function if the city and the markets don't trust its Chancellor. And they have lost all faith in Rachel Reeves, particularly when she primed them. She softened the way and said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to be raising income tax. And they all went, fair enough, decent idea, only thing you can do. And then she suddenly said, oh, wait a minute, I'm not going to be doing that because Keir made her say that. At that point, the markets lost all faith in her. And if you have a Chancellor that the markets don't listen to, don't trust, don't care about, then your government ceases to function. So fascinating times. I think we might be on the precipice. I think you're right, Stephen. Stephen, fantastic to talk to you as always. That was Stephen Barrett, barrister and broadcaster. Next up, it is Isabel Oakeshott with amazing videos from inside the Weatherfield Asylum Centre. You don't want to miss that. Stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In about half an hour, we're going to be dealing with a school, a big West Midlands school that has installed metal detectors to stop kids taking knives into the classroom. A snapshot of broken modern Britain. More and more schools are considering this. We were promised back in 2008 that hundreds of schools would do this. That doesn't seem to have happened. Recently, a 15-year-old kid was stabbed to death at a school in Sheffield. We'll talk about that in about half an hour and then take your messages, your calls, 03444 991,000. So that later in the hour. But for the next half an hour, I've got a special treat for you. She doesn't normally come on a Tuesday night, but she's brought in another one of her brilliant exclusives, so I've made her come on to the show. She is Talk's brilliant international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome, Isabel.
Oh, good evening. And yeah, I think, well, this is another immigration one, isn't it?
Should we play the videos and then come back and talk about it? I'll set the scene, yeah. So what Isabel has managed to obtain is two videos. Weatherfield, former RAF airbase, is pretty much the biggest asylum seeker centre, accommodation centre in Britain. About 800, I think, pretty exclusively young men are there. You'll see in a second. Not very many women, not very many children in these videos. So we've got two videos that have been supplied to us by a local campaign group, which is trying to stop the buses that regularly ferry all these young foreign men into the surrounding towns, Chelmsford, Colchester and Braintree, causing locals say an unpleasant atmosphere, and they want to stop this. It's called Stop the Buses. So they've supplied these videos of what goes on inside the camp, and I think, well, look, I'm going to show them to you. You can make up your own mind, but I'm not sure this is what I had in mind for what ought to be happening in these asylum seeker accommodation centres. So what we've called it, we call this very merrily War and Peace, because we're going to do it the other way. We'll do Peace and War. Doesn't really roll off the tongue, but Peace and War. Because the first video, here they are. I'm sure you'll be very pleased to see that these people who broke into our country illegally and for whom we're paying everything, you know, their food, their accommodation, their dentists, their lawyers, etc., etc. You know the list. Well, they're having a lovely time. Have a look. Is that what you had in mind? It wasn't what I had in mind. That's what we're paying for. They're having a whale of a time, aren't they? Don't have to work. We're giving them money, 50 quid a week. Great, great. So the Home Office, we went to the Home Office about this, and they said, so if you looked at that video, there's all pool tables in the background, TVs, CDs, record players. It says recreational facilities such as this is the Home Office statement, such as pool tables are provided to keep people on site. They go on to say music equipment, including radios and CDs. CD? People have CD players anymore? Home Office, by the way, 2025 called. Could you come up to date, please? What else are you going to say? No more Betamax videos or something. Anyway, including radios, CDs and record players are not provided by the Home Office. That's great. They say that based on analysis, this video was, this is funny, was taken 18 months ago under the previous government. Of course it was. Of course it was. It's the Tories again. It's always their fault. Anyway, take that with a pinch of salt. Anyway, so I said War and Peace, so that was the peace bit. Here are our migrant friends, the residents of Weatherfield Asylum Seeker Centre, having less of a party time, more of a fight time. Have a look.
Calm down, that's it. Calm down, everybody. That's it. Yasin! Brother, film. Good, huh?
Yeah, this guy, yeah.
Wallah, yeah, no eating, no sleeping.
No, ini dia.
Well, there you are, fighting and partying, all at our expense. You see those security guys there. On information from the Deputy Leader of the Green Party, Rachel Millward, I'm looking at those guys fighting, but I'm sort of not really sensing there's too many surgeons, doctors, lawyers or engineers among them. Just me, perhaps I'm being over cynical. What I do notice, to quote or to cite Darren Jones, the Prime Minister's Parliamentary Secretary, his right-hand man, MP, who told Question Time on national TV, he said that the majority of the migrants who come across the channel in small boats are desperate people. They're women, children and babies. Once again, I'm not seeing a whole lot of women, children and babies there. Just a lot of young blokes partying or fighting. These are extraordinary videos, aren't they, Isabel? And I think a lot of taxpayers will be thinking, what the hell are we paying for? These people just have a full-time party.
Well, it was kind of funny when I saw the first clip of them partying, and I hope that our listeners could actually hear the thumping music. For some reason I couldn't hear it in the clip, but anyway, for those that didn't, you know, that clip showed a bunch of blokes having a good old dance with some disco music, and probably not from a CD player, let's face it, probably Spotify, and playing pool and so on. It was really, it was a pretty jolly scene, let me put it that way. Now, I was thinking, well, at least they're not fighting. You know, I was sort of thinking, I don't want to be too mean-spirited about it. You know, I don't think we expect asylum seekers all to just sit quietly, you know, priest-like in their rooms studying, I don't know, Great British history or
surgery or legal affairs, because they're all surgeons, lawyers and engineers, you know that.
Well, what we might hope is they would be sitting studying how to speak English. But anyway, I think it's fine for them to have a bit of a good time, but it was quite a good time. Then contrast with, just as I'm thinking, well, I suppose at least they're not fighting, then comes another clip which shows that, they are fighting. Just another sort of mass brawl in what looks like some kind of communal area of this old RAF facility, with a couple of guys wearing high-vis jackets who, I don't know if they're supposed to be providing some kind of security, because if they were, they looked pretty out of their depth. And that would fit in with reports that a great number of the security personnel on that site actually went on strike some weeks ago because they were very, very unhappy with their pay and conditions there, and indeed with how they were treated by some of the migrants. And it appears that qualified security staff are being used by the provider of this accommodation, the operator of it, they're being asked to also clean toilets and clean floors, which is not actually what their role should be. So there's been an ongoing issue with that RAF premises with insufficient or inadequate security provision. And I've no doubt that that is actually adding to the anxieties of local communities. Now, it's all very well accommodating asylum seekers in former military bases. I'm in favour of that. I think it's a good thing. But it doesn't help the community that much if then they're just bussed into town where they get up to who knows what. We'll have to go there and have a look to see what it is they get up to.
Well, in a minute, Isabel, we're going to be joined after the break by one of the campaigners from the Stop the Buses campaign, who's going to tell us all about what goes on and why they're trying to cease this ferrying operation, apparently. But to give you a sort of numerical idea of the scale of this, this is Wethersfield, former RAF base in Essex, has at points been just about Britain's biggest asylum seeker centre, with as many as 1,245 exclusively young blokes, young male migrants living there. They think at the moment the numbers are down to around 800, but a lot of young men, of that at that kind of age where, as we saw, one tends to be a little boisterous, either partying or fighting. They're volatile. They're at that volatile age. So there's this constant busing service during the day, and presumably at the night as well, that takes them into the surrounding towns, which are Chelmsford, Colchester and Braintree. And the people of those towns have had enough. They say that this... we'll find out exactly what's been going on, but they're trying to stop this busing service. But it's just a sort of first of all, I just think you look at that and you think, what is going on here? Why are we paying for these guys, who broke into our country? Why do we take them to this quite nice looking place, billet them, and then sort of, give them 50 quid a week and let them go into town and parties and fighting? And you think, what on earth is going on here? Why are we paying for this? Why are we doing this? So what's fascinating about these two briefish videos is they give us a sort of snapshot of that which we previously have not known about. Exactly what happens behind the walls, the closed doors of these asylum seeker centres. It's just like the hotels, where you've brought some brilliant inside information, inside filming of the hotels as well. We're not really allowed to know that, but so I just think, looking at those two videos, you think, well, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. It's costing us, 15 billion quid over 10 years to accommodate these people. What for? So they can have a party and a punch-up? It's mad.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely ridiculous. And, we've made it quite a theme, I think, of your show, Kev, to try to lift the lid on what is going on behind closed doors, what the government doesn't want us to see. And they made a big fuss, haven't they, about getting people out of asylum hotels and into former military premises. And, you and I and many of our listeners, probably most of them, will be in favour of that over the use of 3- and 4-star hotels. But I think this is the first footage we've had, certainly the first I've seen, from inside one of these military premises.
Me too, exactly.
What's disappointing is to discover that it's really no different in setup to the hotels. They still have all the same facilities. It's no more restrictive. It happens to be a bit out of town, which is a mercy for communities that really deplore having these hotels right on their doorstep. But, that sort of advantage is somewhat sort of diminished if what we're doing as taxpayers is paying for them to go in and out of town on minibuses or coaches or whatever it is that's being provided. And I've no doubt also that since it's out of town, the taxi bill will be even higher than it is for those premises which are nearer the kind of amenities that they claim they need to go to. And we heard from Adam last week or the week before, the notorious pasta thief, that these taxis are used fictitiously to go to hospital and are in fact just used to go elsewhere, places near the hospital.
It's just...
It's mad.
It's so insane. It's so insane. Just imagine these guys like hanging around in Ethiopia or Syria or whatever, one telling the other, well, if you get to Britain, right, what you have to do, you get on these, you go to Calais, you get onto these illegal boats, you go 21 miles across the sea, then they just give you everything. They take you to a lovely place to stay. You can party and you can fight and you can drink and you can have fun, and they'll ferry you into the local town so you can have a night on the Raz. I mean, it's just madness. It is madness. And I didn't hear anything from tough, hard-as-nails Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood about what to do about this nonsense. We don't know about the details of what exactly goes on. And I'm stunned. I'm stunned today by how everyone has fallen for her speech yesterday. Nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to change. That was Stella Creasy called Shabana Mahmood's speech a performative cruelty. I liked that as a phrase. I call it performative headline hunting. Mission accomplished, and that'll be the extent of the mission. Nothing else will happen. Nothing will change. We're not doing anything to check on who these men we're letting into the country are. Those people we saw dancing and fighting, I bet you we don't know anything about them. We don't know anything about most of these people we let in. So what did she propose about stopping that? Oh, I know, nothing. It wasn't a particularly tough speech. It will not change the dial. Things will get worse. Great videos, though. Thank you for bringing them in. Stick around, though, because when we come back, we're going to talk to one of the organisers, one of the campaign leaders who've been campaigning to stop the buses, to stop these young men being ferried into the neighbouring towns, and we'll find out why they want to do that. I can imagine, but let's get the details from the horse's mouth, as it were. That next. Stay tuned, folks.
This is opposing for the sake of opposing, something Labour did when they were in opposition in the last government, rather than just saying, you know what, this isn't perfect, but you know what, it's a damn sight better than where we are now. Am I fair in my criticism, or is there a good reason why reforms should oppose these measures?
It's a difficult one because, as you quite rightly say, it's a step in the right direction. But I think Reform have bloody good reason to be highly sceptical of this. They have been shouting from the sidelines for not years, but decades.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, I'd like to welcome to the show. We're going to stick with our international editor, Isabel Oakeshott, who brought us in those amazing videos of what goes on inside the walls, the lock gates of Wethersfield RAF base, former RAF base, now full of, at the moment we think about 800 young foreign men about whom we probably know nothing. But we did see them having a great time and fighting and dancing. Now, joining us now, she lives in Braintree. She's a single mum, and she's part of the Stop the Weatherfield Buses campaign. Holly England, welcome Holly, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having us on here this evening, thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Now, we've just watched some of the videos of what's been going on inside Wethersfield, which Isabel and I are going, hang on a second, what exactly are we paying for? These guys to come over and have a party and a punch-up? Seems strange in itself. But I suppose within those walls, if that's what they want to get up to, you know, knock themselves out if they're like, almost literally by the looks of it. But they lay on regular buses for all these guys to go into the neighbouring towns of Chelmsford, Colchester and your town, Braintree. So tell me why you want to stop those buses. What happens, talk about your town, Holly, when they get to Braintree, what do they get up to? Why is it you want to stop these buses?
They seem to sit around and lurk around the town quite a lot. They're always coming in and out of shopping places with bags of beer. They sit on the benches outside, they watch girls, women go past, there's been wolf whistles, girls have been harassed with phone numbers. I get nans, I get mums, I get aunties, I get so many people sending me inboxes saying, you know, their children have been approached, this has happened, that's happened. And it's just getting out of hand, it's getting out of control. It now seems to be a bit more Braintree. It now seems to be spreading towards Chelmsford quite bad. Obviously, we've moved over there to try and sort of get the protest going over there a little bit as well. So their buses have arrived over there, and also Colchester are getting them as well. But they like to lurk around and genuinely sit there watching women and girls.
It's you women who are alarmed, concerned by what the atmosphere that these guys create. I mean, they're sort of leering at you, wolf whistling, just making you feel uncomfortable. I gather that you've been given rape alarms, is that right?
No, we're setting it up now. What we're trying to aim to do is to get a load of rape alarms together and start handing them out over in Chelmsford first. For the in the evenings at weekends, to give them out to the girls, young girls, women, anyone that's out on the town, to try and hand them out to every single person that we can find. That is our aim. And then to try and get across Essex and hand out as many as we can to women and girls.
So you're going to distribute rape alarms to as many women as possible because of this rising problem that you got in Braintree, Chelmsford and Colchester. How many of these buses come into Braintree every day?
Well, we sent someone down to get a video the other day, and I would say there was somewhere between 50 and 60 men there with 2 or 3 buses. That's the worst we've seen, to be fair, in one go. I've never seen so many of them. The police then also, we got videos of them, the police turning up down there later that evening as well. So whatever had gone on, we had just missed, but there were police down at the bus stop where all these men had gathered as well.
And you're a single mum. Is your kid do you have a daughter at all, or sons?
I've got 2 girls.
Two girls. So how old are your girls, if I may ask, Holly?
I've got a 4-year-old and a 15-year-old, but my 4-year-old was recorded by one of these men about 3 months ago. I've had to pull her away. Your
4-year-old?
My 4-year-old just stood in the middle of Braintree, and the guy come around with his camera and put it directly right up to her. I had to grab her and tell him to go away and move away from town. I left town.
And what have you told? What have you told your 15-year-old? To be extremely careful, I would have thought.
Yeah, she's only allowed out with larger groups of people, not on her own, and she will be panic alarm as well.
And presumably, you're representative of a lot of mums in the area who must be worried about their kids, particularly their daughters, right?
They are terrified. Like I said, I received several inboxes a day saying how scared even the elderly, quite a few elderly have messaged me saying that they're too scared to go into town. They no longer go because of being able to use the bus station. They don't want to have to walk past them because that's where they're dropping them all off. And as I said, I get mums, young girls. We had a young girl talk for us at our last Chelmsford protest, who stated that she felt very worried and she felt extremely intimidated. A 16-year-old girl got up and told us that in front of over 100 people. It was quite sad, very sad.
Well, Isabel, I mean, Holly and the people of Braintree, and for that matter, Chelmsford and Colchester, they shouldn't have to live like this, should they?
Absolutely not. You know, it's not as if the UK was crime-free before we had this asylum seeker crisis, but this has absolutely demonstrably led to a spike in sexual violence, you know, intimidation, inappropriate behaviour in the areas around asylum accommodation. And, you know, I don't want children growing up in that environment. No mother does. I've got daughters. I would hate the idea of them having to walk through, you know, huddles of young men who are just loitering. Now, they are loitering because they have nothing to do. You know, they are there for long periods, stuck in this, you know, the accommodation where they're just around each other. So they're either partying or fighting or drinking, whatever it may be. And then when they get out, they're not allowed to work, although we know full well that many are working on the black market. So what are they doing? They're just idling around. And as the old saying goes, the devil makes work for idle hands. You know, what are they going to do except just stand on street corners and, you know, look at people in an inappropriate way? Of course, not all asylum seekers behave badly, but it only takes one or two to devastate lives. You know, there are such shocking cases. One only this week that had come to court in conclusion of a poor 15-year-old girl in Oxford who was raped by an asylum seeker. And, you know, her life has been utterly, utterly devastated. We cannot have this in our communities.
Absolutely not. Now, Holly, presumably you've been in touch with Wethersfield, with the authorities, asked them at the very least, could you stop ferrying hundreds of men into our town every day, causing this unpleasant atmosphere, frightening atmosphere? You've been in touch with them. What have they said to your request to stop the buses?
To be fair, we don't really get much response. We've emailed James Cleverly several times, and everyone just gets the same reply. They don't seem to want to do anything. They're just going to keep bringing them in. And to be fair, I don't think the actual true numbers are being told. I am being told that they are moving closer to 3,000 in, not 800.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that. I mean,
which has been very true. Obviously, the videos have been true, so yeah. I'm starting to wonder whether this 800 is true, because I have heard it's closer to 3,000.
Yeah, well,
and what's going on in the amount of buses and the amount of people now lurking to what there was 3 months ago, it seems like there must have been a dramatic increase for that amount to be coming out into the town every day.
And is James Cleverly your local MP then?
Yes, yeah.
And what has he said to you?
Just the same sort of email back that you know, there's not really anything that can be done. It's the government, and they are going. You know, they're not going to keep increasing the numbers, but they are being increased. They're keeping things quiet. I know full well they've been increased, because, like we said, we have somebody inside that's telling us this information. So, you know, he just seems to want to fob everybody off that tries to email him with the same same rubbish.
So your campaign continues apace, yeah?
Yes, we've got a protest this Saturday in Tyndall Square, Chelmsford, which the original Pink Ladies will be joining us.
That's on Saturday, is that right?
Yes, Saturday at 12.
Yeah, I've heard about this. Well, look, I wish you all the best with that, and I wish you all the best with your campaign. We'll keep in touch with you. Thank you so much for coming on. That's Holly England, Stop the Weatherfield Buses campaign organiser. What about that? I should also say, I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. Thank you very much to our brilliant international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Thanks, Isabel, for bringing that in. Let's move on, but extraordinary story. Extraordinary story. Think about that. Well, Holly's saying she thinks there's more than 800 young men in there. But I was just thinking, if you think about it, 800, just let's give them the benefit of the doubt, 800 young men of, you know, sexually active, boisterous type age, 17 to 34, all corralled into the same place. That's a fermentation scene, isn't it? That is going to ferment and, you know, there's going to be trouble. And then they're busing them into these neighbouring towns. Poor Holly, 15-year-old daughter, 4-year-old daughter harassed by one of these guys. I've seen the scenes. We've all seen them. They just hang around on the street corners, smoking, drinking, whipping at the girls and making females uncomfortable. It's not good, is it? 0344 499 1000. When we come back, still with young people, I suppose, we'll talk about schools. There's a big school in West Midlands which has just felt the need to install metal detectors. This is a snapshot of modern broken Britain. Metal detectors, kids turning up for school, got to walk through electronic arches to be checked for knives, so to make sure they're not carrying knives. A school in Sheffield recently, 15-year-old stabbed to death by a pupil who didn't have to go through a metal detector, was carrying a massive, great barbed hunting knife. This is what's happening in schools across the country. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Big school, St James's Academy in Dudley in the West Midlands, is installing electronic arches, metal detectors to check 860 pupils, big school. They all have to walk through an arch to check whether or not they're carrying knives. I used to live in the States, it was a common thing there, but it seems to be hitting Britain. Funnily enough, back in 2008, it was pledged that hundreds of our schools would install these metal detectors. It's not a very nice thing, but if it keeps kids safe, then we should do it, shouldn't we? I'm just wondering why so few schools seem to have followed up on that. The West Midlands School, St James's Academy, is doing this in the slipstream in the wake of a poor little kid, 15-year-old kid stabbed to death at school in Sheffield. So stabbings in schools are a thing. Should we not perhaps have metal detectors in the entrances to every single school in the country? Surely it's worth thinking about, because that's the reality. Let's talk to former Scotland Yard detective Mike Neville. Hello, Mike.
Yes, good evening, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, this is, as I said just now, this is really a kind of sad snapshot of modern broken Britain, isn't it? That a school feels the need to install metal detectors to stop kids taking knives into the classrooms. Now, that is really depressing. But in 2008, it was announced there would be an initiative to install many metal detectors across the country. Now, although that's depressing and sad and a reflection on the violent, nasty times in which we live, it does make sense, doesn't it? Why do you think so few schools have followed up on that?
Well, 1,300 offences involving knives. 1,300 offences involving knives, 2024 in school.
Mike, something wrong with this. Is a very bad line. I don't know what's happening. Can we try and get Mike back? That line really wasn't working. Let's have I'll read a couple of messages while we try and get Mike back. Hi Kev, I hope you're well. I'm not sure, but it's almost like the government and all their cronies want to get rid of all British people and let the far left take over our country. And those who are left, if any, will have to live by their rules. Love the show. Karen in Bristol is saying that. Interesting point. You do feel like there's a sort of left-wing conspiracy taking the country over. Is Mike back? Mike, say something. Let's hear if that's a bit better. Hello,
yeah,
Mike?
so there's 1,300 crimes involving knives in schools. I mean, that's in a year. That's shocking. I mean, you had the murder of Harvey Wilgoose in Sheffield, of course. You had the stabbing in South Wales. A girl stabbed.
Mike, it's not working. It's not working. Can we just try one more time? One more time. Sorry, it's completely... Mike's not aware, but it's completely breaking up. We'll try him one more time. This is Don in Chelmsford, one of the towns around the Wethersfield Air Base. He says, Don says, the old air base at Wethersfield was home to an American battalion. The facilities were excellent, with a school, a club, a housing estate, a bowling alley and a cinema. It was then used by the Ministry of Defence as an air base. I kind of remember that. I went on a school trip there once. Well, it's a long time ago, folks, but it was like going to America. You know, we as kids, we loved it because it was like stepping into middle America, all the bowling alleys and cinemas, drive-in movies, all that kind of stuff, a store full of American goods. So, yeah, I remember that myself. This is Bill in Cheshire. Those Wethersfield videos, good to see all the mothers and children enjoying themselves. Exactly right. And did I see some doctors, engineers and rocket scientists studying at one of those tables? No doubt applying for jobs. It's a joke, isn't it? You know, that's what we've been told. They're all doctors, lawyers, surgeons, engineers, young women, mothers, babies. No, they're not. They're a bunch of young blokes. Most of them are just grifters, liars, who we're escaping war and torture. No, they're not. They just came here to get a job. I don't blame them for trying to better themselves, but, you know, let's not delude ourselves about who they are. They're young grifters. Right, Mike, are you on the phone now? Let's try. I don't know what was going wrong with that line. So we've got Mike Neville back on the phone. So we were talking about schools. What were you saying, Mike?
Well, there was last year. There was 1,300 crimes involving knives in schools, and they weren't the ones reported to the police. So, God only knows how many knives teachers and mothers found. You know, we had the murder in Sheffield.
This is Mike. I'm really sorry, but this isn't working either. Where is? We're going to have to abandon it. We'll get Mike back tomorrow on this topic, but sorry, I don't know where he is. I think he must be in a nuclear bunker somewhere, so we couldn't get the picture, then we couldn't get the sound. I'm sorry about that, but you get the gist of the story. Should more schools, 1,300 crimes, violent crimes involving children at school, one school, St James's Academy in Dudley, installing metal detectors. This is a story of our times, but I suspect more of these should be installed. We're going to go to another local resident around Wethersfield now. She's on the phone. That's Karina in Braintree. Hi, Karina. You know what our guest Holly was talking about. You're in Braintree. Do you feel intimidated by these asylum seekers?
Absolutely, I do. I avoid going into town. I've lived in this town all of my life, and I've got children, I've got grandchildren as well. And I was in town with my boys, and normally if we go upstairs in Tesco's, there's a toy or aisle, I will let them have a little wander. But they were being watched, and I didn't feel comfortable allowing them to walk around a shop. So I kept them with me, and that was yesterday afternoon.
Yesterday afternoon. And so you're seeing this, Karina, like every day, these buses bringing these young men from, young foreign men from Wethersfield Airfield into your town, yeah?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
And so you, when Holly was saying what an unpleasant atmosphere, particularly for women, this is causing, you know exactly what she's talking about.
Absolutely, and especially tomorrow, which is market day, so we have a local market.
Yeah.
And it used to be a good, thriving town with a market, but it's like a ghost town now. People are not venturing out because of this, I feel.
God, really?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So you would back Holly's campaign to stop these buses at the very least. It's kind of bizarre, isn't it? So you've got, we think, maybe 800 young men at Wethersfield. You know, they're of that kind of age where young blokes are a bit boisterous. We just showed video of them, A, having a party, B, having a fight. It isn't a particularly healthy thing to do, I would have thought, for your town, for Chelmsford, for Colchester, to bus hundreds of them in every day to loiter around causing an unpleasant atmosphere.
Yes, they were also taking them to Whittam, to a dental practice over there. And it's hard for locals to even get an NHS dentist. You know, my boys are with a private dentist because I couldn't get them an NHS dentist.
Yeah. And do you, Holly was saying that a lot of these guys, they get into town, they buy beer and drink, and they sit around on the street benches and stuff, leering at women, whistling and wolf whistling, and in particular making it uncomfortable for females. Do you agree with that, yeah?
Yes, absolutely. But also, they are given money, but why are they allowed to spend it on alcohol? And when they are being taken back to the base, why are they not being checked for the things that they are taken in? It's just like a holiday camp.
I know. Well, we've just seen what a great time they're all having. Just seen some video of them. It's ridiculous. Well, listen, Karina, I mean, it's shocking, really. I know Braintree's a lovely town, isn't it? It was, and they're doing this to it. Unbelievable, unbelievable. Well, Karina, thank you very much for ringing. Look after yourself and maybe keep in touch. Good to talk. Karina in Braintree. There you go. We've got a picture building up here, folks. This is really bad, isn't it? You know, so we put these asylum seekers, 800 young blokes. Well, Holly reckoned more. She thinks thousands, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt. 800 young guys, all boisterous, partying, fighting, drinking. And then they bust them into the local towns and they make life really unpleasant for the local residents. Why is this happening? This is ridiculous. The government should do something about this. Ruining the nice lives of local communities by bussing in all these foreign guys that we've let into the country after they broke into it illegally. Again, this is cycles and cycles of insanity, don't you think? 03444991000. Give me a call about all this. Let me know what you think, because we're going to be taking calls after this break. Stay where you are.
This is opposing for the sake of opposing, something Labour did when they were in opposition in the last government, rather than just saying, you know what, this isn't perfect, but you know what, it's a damn sight better than where we are now. Am I fair in my criticism, or is there a good reason why Reform should oppose these measures?
It's a difficult one because, as you quite rightly say, it's a step in the right direction. But I think Reform have bloody good reason to be highly sceptical of this. They have been shouting from the sidelines for not years but decades.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome, getting lots and lots of messages and phone calls about what's been going on in the Essex area around the Wethersfield Air Base, where there are 800, we think at least 800 young male migrants, asylum seekers who broke into this country illegally, and now we're giving them free food, free accommodation and busing them into the local towns. Isn't that special? Making the atmosphere very unpleasant, particularly for women. They're passing out rape alarms. It's great, isn't it? We're talking about Chelmsford, we're talking about Braintree. We just had a call from a lady in Braintree. Braintree's where Holly England, our guest who's organising the Stop the Buses campaign, that's where she lives, and also Colchester, a place called Whitton as well, apparently. So every town in the area is having imposed on it, on them, all the towns, these guys just being bussed in every day who apparently buy booze, sit around on park benches, sit around street corners, wolf whistling the women, just causing, you know, unpleasantness. You know, the government should do something about this. This is someone, by the way, the rapist, the Turkish rapist, who looks like we're going to give him compensation because he got depressed because we made him wear a tag, an electronic tag. I'll tell you what I'd do, I'd just bang him up in jail, see how depressed that makes him. Yeah, solitary confinement. Does that make you depressed? Oh, really sorry about that, you rapist. Anyway, here's Helen. Helen in Knutsford. She says that bloody rapist needs to be punished. If the tag made him depressed, give him another one. Don't pander to him and deport him now. This is pathetic. It's so wrong. Sack these idiot immigration judges. Helen's anger, I think, speaking for us all. Totally agree with you. What is going on? This guy's, we gave him leave to remain in this country indefinitely in 1994. He went on to commit 54 offences, one of which was rape. He did 7 years for rape, and now he's suing us for compensation because the electronic tag we've made him wear while he awaits deportation has made him depressed. Well, you know, what do you mean awaiting deportation? Why isn't he on the plane out now? Why? Why is he still here? This is absolutely crazy. 03444991000. And I don't think we should give him compensation for being depressed. Do you? It's just a thought. Let me know what you think. David is on the phone from Alva in Scotland. Hello, David.
Hiya, Kevin. How are you doing?
I'm all right. What would you like to say, mate?
Like, can you just give me like 1 minute?
1 minute? Yeah.
Yes. Well, no, even that. Even 30 seconds. I'm a single dad.
Right.
My wife died in 2017. It left me with at that time 3 and 5 year old boys.
Right.
I'm trying to promote a single dad thing, because everybody goes for single women and everything like that,
I think what you're getting at, David, and by the way, respect. I'm very sorry for your loss, and I really respect you for bringing up your children. But I assume what you're getting at is it's a struggle for you, and you look around. You're a British citizen bringing up your little kids on your own because of tragedy. You look around you. You see these migrants, these asylum seekers. They're getting free accommodation, free food, free phones, free driving lessons. I bet you that makes you rather annoyed, doesn't it?
I am sitting in a wheelchair at the moment because I'm my leg. I broke my ankle.
Yeah.
In August.
Oh my God.
I'm ready. I'm a self-employed director of a company. I'm an electrician, right?
Right. How are you getting by then now, David? Presumably you can't work if you've broken your ankle. Are you getting benefits?
No.
Oh my God. How are you getting by then? How are you feeding your kids? How you manage to survive?
I'm ready to lose my house.
Oh my God.
I'm ready to lose my house.
Well, have you been to the authorities, to the welfare? I mean,
yeah, everything. I've been through Universal Credit. I used to. It was the one thing that actually really, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but the F word, COVID. I was 16 weeks.
Right. How old are your kids again, David?
Well, now they're 11 and 13.
So the little 11 and 13-year-old kids, yeah?
Yeah, and they're now staying with my late wife's auntie. This is what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
There's everybody goes up for single women and single this and that. See the single dads thing.
It's a difficult life. Well, listen.
No, difficult because there's a lot more dads.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I know what you mean, David. Listen, I'm gonna have to move on, mate, because I've got to take some other calls. But we'll take your number and we'll see if we can help. But listen, stay strong, look after yourself, and I'm very sorry for what's happened to you. But I do need to move on. But keep in touch. That's David in Alva. It's terrible, isn't it? Poor guy, These things happen, these terrible things happen. But you look around, a lot of stories in the papers today of poverty-stricken Brits, probably a bit like David, who just say, hang on, we don't get free food, we don't get free accommodation, we don't get free phones, free doctors, free lawyers, free dent. We don't get any of this stuff. Why do we give it to asylum seekers? Why do we give it to people who broke into our country illegally? It's two-tier government, if you like. There is this constant feeling that these foreigners, these asylum seekers, these migrants are prioritised. Their welfare is prioritised over British citizens. I'm not saying we completely abandon these people. We're a civilised country. For better or worse, they turn up here. But why do they get such better treatment than British citizens who live here, who are born here, born and bred? Why is that? It's crazy. Crazy. 0344 499 1000. This is one of my favourite points of any show of any night. It is when Georgina from London rings. Hello, Georgina.
Hello, good evening, Kevin. It's heartbreaking to hear people like David calling who's got absolutely nothing, and these migrants are getting everything. When is this government going to wake up, Kevin? It's absolutely appalling. They should be given less than nothing and put on the next boat to Blighty. Honestly, I'm sick to the stomach that yet another migrant has been given leniency by yet another woke left-wing judge.
Yeah, you're talking about this Turkish guy. It's unbelievable.
Yes, it's unbelievable. But what I'm talking also, this is not just a Turkish guy. This is happening all over the country. It's becoming a daily occurrence, Kevin, yet we hear next to nothing on the mainstream media. We desperately need a governing body to deep clean the whole of our British judicial system, as it's putting our women, our children and our men in mortal danger. It's not open season on British citizens. It never has been. And we're not sacrificial lambs for any economic migrant to do with as he pleases. Britain is becoming more like an Islamic state every day because women and children are no longer safe going out unless they have a male chaperone. It's absolutely horrendous, Kevin. The fact that these judges are being so lenient to these sexual predators is in direct contradiction of what British justice should be. They know what's going on, and they're turning a blind eye for the sake of woke ideologies, cultural cohesion, and diversity. Well, it's ruining people's lives.
Yeah, well,
it's
you said this guy Mustafa Taskiran, the Turkish migrant convicted of rape, who's committed 54 offences since he was allowed to leave, given leave to remain in the UK permanently in 1994. He says he's applied for compensation because he's depressed because we're making him wear an electronic tag. Now, Ken from Kent has written into me with a message, with a text message, and I think it pretty much sums up what I think about it. Ken says, "What about, never mind his depression, what about the mental anguish suffered by the woman this Turkish guy has attacked? Pay the compensation to the woman he raped." Quite. Exactly. What about what about her depression? What about her mental anguish? What on earth is a judge sitting around worrying about the depression of a convicted rapist who's committed 54 offences in this country, is just a serial criminal? Twice we've tried to deport him. Why on earth, how on earth we have failed in that endeavour beats me, Georgina. What is he still doing here, this guy?
Well, he shouldn't be here, Kevin. We shouldn't have to suffer this abhorrent situation. The British people deserve better. They deserve to be protected. This is what both government and the judiciary are supposed to be here for. And at the moment, that's not the case. Any migrant who dares attack, assault, rape or break any of our laws should be deported without delay.
I agree with you. I agree with you. That should be open and shut. If you come here as an asylum seeker, I mean, frankly, if you broke into the country illegal, I'd send you back for that. I'd just say you've broken our laws, you can't come in. But since we seem to overlook the law breaking involved in their entry into this country, if they then subsequently break the law, particularly if they go to jail, they're out. Go. You are being deported, and yet we don't do that, Georgina. I'll tell you, this country is going stark staring mad. We need something to be done about it, and we need something to be done urgently. Georgina, I've got to go now because I've got to go to the news, but it's always great to hear from you. You know that. Excellent call again from Georgina in London, one of our best and most regular callers. Now, after the break, we're going to go to the 9 o'clock news in just a second. Nigel Farage today has called for not the abolition of the BBC, but a new funding system to make it absolutely pay for itself. It's exactly what I think. You know, I'm still kind of fond of the BBC. I don't want to get rid of it. I just don't want to pay for it anymore, particularly after the Donald Trump debacle. So we're going to have a debate. You know, should we keep the licence fee or get rid of it? That next, stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Nigel Farage is leading the charge to call for change in funding for the BBC. He says that the licence fee, particularly in the light of the Donald Trump debacle that is continuing to unfold before our very eyes, means that it's the final straw. It's time to get rid of the licence fee. I think Farage sort of shares my view. I certainly don't want to abolish the BBC. BBC still does a lot of good work. I just think it should learn to pay for itself. We shouldn't be forced to pay for it anymore. If, as it's fond of telling us, that its content is so fantastic and it does such a great service for the nation, people will pay a subscription fee to watch it. Or maybe they could take advertising like other broadcasters. I think it's just time to get rid of the anachronistic TV licence. Now, that's just my feeling, so what do I matter? It doesn't matter what I think. Some people agree with me, Nigel Farage included, others don't. So I thought we might sort of debate this with one person who's passionately in favour of the continuation of the licence fee and one who is not. Who has the opposite viewpoint. So a warm welcome to the show to sort of in the against corner. He's a Reform councillor, the Reform leader at Portsmouth City Council, George Madrick. Welcome, George. And for someone who wants to keep the current system, the licence fee going, is former BBC producer John Mayer. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for joining us. Well, let's kick off with you, shall we, John? Why do you think we should keep the licence fee? Do you not agree that even if you keep some of it, the whole idea of 180 quid a year by law is somewhat anachronistic?
No, actually, Kevin, no. I've just edited a book called The BBC After the Licence Fee. And what I think you need is a sensible licence fee. So you have a basic licence fee of maybe 100, 150 quid, which pays for everything the BBC does, which it does brilliantly. And then you have a subscription, the other side of the...
hang on a second. The sound's going.
Can you hear me?
I got you back, John. Sorry.
Okay,
You were saying, if I could just come back to where we lost the sound. You said we should have 150 quid.
150 quid basic fee, where you see everything once, and then the other side of the iPlayer, you pay for things. Because the BBC produces great product, and they should charge for it. Now, in terms of the alternatives, advertising, ITV is down the tubes, Channel 4 is down the tubes.
That's a good point, actually. Advertising doesn't work anymore. But what about full subscription?
No, not full subscription. No, because it needs to be universal. Look, this is a great national institution. It's one of the great that and the monarchy are the only things people abroad actually know about. You know, for 104 years now, they've produced wonderful programs and still do, day after day after day after day. You know. Do you not want that? Do you want the...
I want the BBC to carry on making great programmes. I don't think it makes as many great programmes as it used to. But I want the BBC to pay for itself. If it makes such great content that the nation so desperately needs and loves, then subscription models should work for it. I mean...
The licence fee only raises 3.7 billion, you know?
Only raises 3.7 billion? You don't think that's quite a lot of money?
Peanuts. Donald Trump is...
How much money does ITV survive on every year? It's not 3.7 billion. No broadcaster gets as much money.
Hang on a minute, Kevin.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is suing the BBC allegedly for a whole year's licence fee. So he will take the whole licence fee away from the BBC. This is Trumpism. You know, this is Trumpism. Let's get rid of the opposition. Take away their money. He's done it to PBS. He's done it to NPR. He's done it to Voice of America. He basically doesn't like opposition, nor do reform.
Don't you think the problem there I'll come to you in a second, George. The problem there is that the BBC has made a terrible mistake.
Nobody defends it. Nobody's defending it.
So he's got the right to compensation, hasn't he? That's what happens when people.
He hasn't got a right to he's got a right to an apology, and then to be told to take a running jump after that.
Well, not really, because if he sued, I don't know, the Times or the Telegraph or the Sun or ITV or Channel 4, yes, they would have to apologise, given the circumstances, and all other broadcasting organisations then, and indeed newspaper companies, would then expect to have to pay financial compensation. Why should the BBC be a special case?
Not shown in America, Kevin. Program not shown in America.
Well, have you heard of YouTube?
He won an election.
YouTube. It's on YouTube. That nonsense doesn't count anymore. All programmes are shown everywhere, George.
He's trying it on, Kevin. He's bullied the American media into submission.
All right. Okay. So say he switches his lawsuit to Britain, the BBC will still have to cough up.
He won't succeed.
You can't look. A libel case cannot be settled just by an apology. Now listen, John, stay where you are, because we've got to bring George in.
Read the legal opinions on it.
Yeah.
Legal opinions say forget it, Donald.
Yeah, no. I can give you legal opinions which say he's in for a hell of a lot of money. George, let me bring you in. I mean, I'm not trying to gang up on Johnny. I respect his opinion. I personally think the licence fee has had its day. I assume you agree with me. If you do, explain why.
Yeah, I mean, let's unpack everything John just said. It's funny that the two big institutions of our country, right, the monarchy and BBC, are both riddled with scandals at the moment. And BBC especially, this is the home of Jimmy Savile, of Hugh Edwards, of the Princess Diana scandal, even recently the Bob Villain scandal, and now this. They are not fit for purpose. They haven't been for several years. Institutionally, I believe that they're corrupt. And unlike a private corporation, they don't have any masters to beckon to, which, yes, does have its positives, of course, because they can do really balanced, impartial and diverse content that probably wouldn't get made without a BBC licence fee. However, they're not responsible. Clearly, they're not responsible. They keep making errors, and they make error and error and error. The tax has been a stealth tax, in my opinion, for donkey's years. And as you said, the BBC is historic. They've got a lot of content, and there could be alternative funding models. But every single kind of analyst at the moment is saying there's probably a value of £8 to £9 billion on the sale of BBC. Personally, I think that's the way it should go. It should go into corporate hands. And with that, a different funding model, we've got a massive back history of shows, programmes, data that we could sell off to acquisition partners. That's how you raise the money for the BBC and keep it going. The only thing I personally like about the BBC is their local programming. I really do like that. I think that's very balanced. I think it's very neutral.
That's only because they put you on. That's only because they put you on, George.
They don't actually, to be honest with you. They don't.
He's from Reform.
I wish they did. They put me on for the very first time only 2 weeks ago. So I wish they did put me on more. But I like it because when I turn on the news channel at 6:30, it always does seem like balanced and fair local information that I do worry that we wouldn't get without it. That's the only positive. But at the end of the day, it's past its time now. People do not want the BBC. It's been wildly unpopular for polls for decades now, where people don't...
Rubbish.
Well, let me just... I want to talk more generally about the BBC in just a second, John, but I do want to go back to this lawsuit. Now, the BBC has apologised for doctoring the speech of Donald Trump. Yeah. Also, in a further admission of guilt, the Director General, Tim Davie, and the Head of News, Deborah Turnus, have stepped down, have resigned.
Yeah,
so
shame.
You've got an apology, the departure of the two people in charge. These are inherent admissions of guilt. Why should the BBC just get away with an apology? Any other broadcaster would have to pay millions for that.
Would they? Would they do that in America? New York Times and CNN are telling Donald Trump to sling his hook at the moment.
They've done it twice. I mean,
but my point.
Two American media organisations have paid Donald Trump off for similar claims.
Yeah, the CBS, Paramount paid him £16.5 million, $16.5 million for splicing a tape.
In those cases.
Yeah, but my point, John, answer this though. you seem to believe and quite, I respect you for saying, well, the BBC has made a mistake here. There's no doubt about that. Why do you think that the BBC alone, if you like, in the arena of libel, should get away with a mere apology when any other broadcaster or newspaper company would have to pay a hell of a lot of financial compensation for that libel? Why should the BBC get away with that?
The BBC produces 9,000 hours.
No, but why should it get away with just an apology? No, never mind. I don't care how many 1,000 hours it produces. Why should it get away with just an apology?
Because, Kevin, it belongs to us. It doesn't belong to Donald Trump.
I don't care who it belongs to. That's like. But John, that is like saying that a newspaper should never pay out any libel money if it defames someone because the poor shareholders will have to pay. That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. If it's broken the libel laws, if it's defamed someone, the BBC is going to have to cough up.
There's been, Kevin, there's been no trial. There's no guilt. The BBC has said, we're sorry, and they're right to say we're sorry. But go back to George. George, why don't we abolish rates? Why don't we abolish council tax?
Sounds like a plan. Sounds like a plan.
Massive skew and a plot twist, doesn't it? But going back to Donald Trump and what you were saying about whether he should pay or not, I don't think anybody sitting in this room would like to pay more license fees to pay Donald Trump. I don't think anybody wants to do that.
It would double. It would double to pay Donald Trump.
It probably would. But at the end of the day, as Kevin said, the program is done wrong. And you said they haven't admitted guilt. They have. They apologise. They
have admitted guilt.
And they've apologised. So sorry.
Yeah, and so any other organisation, broadcaster or newspaper company, having apologised, top people having quit, admitted they've done wrong, we're sorry, they then have to pay a shed load of money. Why should the BBC be excused that?
Kevin,
well, they do, John. They just do. Why should the BBC be excused that?
Let's talk about Talk, which has just fired a front person for apparently a racist tweet.
And I'm not sure what the relevance of that is, though, John, because
what's that got to do with it?
Paid by advertisers. It's a completely different kettle of fish. BBC is paid by the general public. They should be held to a much higher standard of impartiality and neutrality and fair reporting. So talking about a corporate organisation is not comparable at all.
So George, why don't we get rid of the council tax and rates and all of that, and actually don't provide any services?
How are you going to fund that, John? Why would you advocate?
I don't know. You tell me. You tell me.
Okay, can I just stop for a second, right, John? Nigel Farage says that the Donald Trump debacle is the final straw. He branded the BBC rotten to the core, claiming it had become a byword for sleaze, hypocrisy, arrogance, anti-Semitism, and worse. They've got a problem in the news department. It has been a citadel of partiality, of biased reporting, hasn't it?
All of those words are actionable, aren't they? What Farage said, sleaze, etc. No, come on.
Actionable. The BBC want to try that, do they?
Well, no, they don't. They don't because
they'd lose.
No, I don't know if they'd lose, but Trump is going to lose if he tries it on in the British court. Sure as hell, he's going to go with tail between his legs.
Why is he going to lose?
Because A is out of time, so he can't bring a case here.
Well, that's not necessarily the case. That's not necessarily the case. I know what you mean.
And he didn't know about it, and actually he won in the election.
So in actual fact, the date, when you say out of time, the time is dictated from the moment the litigant finds out. So he's not out of time. He's not out of time. He's not out of time.
For the moment of the so-called libel, I would have thought.
George, I think that my problem with the BBC at the moment is I feel they're charging me 180 quid a year, or the best part of that.
For great value.
In order to be lied to by their news department. What do you feel, George?
I think the one thing
hang on, John.
I think the one thing me and John may be able to agree on is some of the content that it puts out is valuable. I think we can both agree on that. It does push out some good content. But I think fundamentally, as you've said, Kev, the issue is the public trust in the organisation. They've now repeatedly, over decades, failed the general public. As you say, they aren't balanced. I mean, and the BBC forget they're not meant to be balanced. They're meant to be neutral. And there's a big difference between being balanced and neutral. And they are no longer neutral.
Which is, George? What's the difference?
The difference difference is neutrality give you an impartial opinion without either side of the story. Balance is by creating two opposing factors on the same show. So, for example, bringing a Green member on and a Reform member on. That's balance. Their job isn't to balance.
Which news I did last night.
It's to be neutral.
I did that last night.
And that's what I like about BBC's local reporting service. It is neutral. Their national system is not necessarily. Look at the Scottish referendum, for example. We know that they had been found for that because they weren't neutral. They weren't balanced on the Scottish referendum.
So George, is Talk balanced? Is GB News balanced?
We don't pretend to be, John. We don't pretend to be.
No, it's irrelevant.
The BBC maintains it is balanced and impartial. Right. It is nothing of the sort. It is left-wing bias. We know it. It is anti-Israel, pro-Palestine, and there is nothing more biased than biased reporters, biased journalists who pretend they're not biased.
Correct. But the thing is the fundamental point here is, and please let's stop missing this, is that Talk and every other organisation is a privately run organisation paid for privately. It's not a publicly funded organisation, and publicly funded organisations have to be upheld to a certain account and a certain standard.
And to Ofcom rules, as does Talk, as does GB News. The Ofcom rules and impartiality are there for all of you.
Yeah, so we try to be balanced. We try and comply with the Ofcom rules.
You bring on people like me because I'm your token Ofcom lefty.
Exactly, John. Exactly right, John. By the way, what's that delicious-looking wine you're drinking? You're making me jealous.
I don't know. I've just been to Philip Pullman event.
Oh, okay.
The queue for the wine was an hour long.
Oh, okay, okay.
So I'm going home.
Well, listen, it's great to have you both on, and I think, in all these debates we'll always agree to differ. But John, good to talk to you. And Jill,
BBC will be very poor, that's all I'll tell you.
Well, we'll see what happens with the lawsuit. It's a fascinating situation either way. So George,
he's getting crap legal advice, by the way.
Well, let's see. You're determined to have the last word here, aren't you? Go on, George, get one in. He's going to lose. He's going to win. He's going to win, isn't he? John, thank you so much for joining us. That's John Mayer and George Madgwick from Portsmouth City Council. John Mayer for the BBC, their former BBC producer. What do you think? I mean, do you think that we should carry on paying the licence fee? I certainly think they've got to get rid of this legal aspect. Until recently, people were getting sent to jail for not paying to watch Strictly Come Dancing or something, not paying their licence fee. So I think we've got to look at the legality of all this. But John's saying perhaps we should have a reduced licence fee. I think 150. We'd have to go a lot less than that. Say 75 quid plus subscription. Sort of BBC Plus service. What do you think of that? Or do you agree with George and indeed me that we shouldn't have a licence fee at all? I just think it's anachronistic. It's one of those things from the past. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. Also, don't forget, we're talking about the Wethersfield Air Base, where there are 800 young male migrants fighting, partying, being ferried into local towns, making the atmosphere very unpleasant, we are told, for the residents of those local towns. What on earth is going on? 03444991000. And should we pay compensation to a Turkish rapist who's been here since 1994, committed 54 crimes, and because he's awaiting deportation for the second time, quite why we didn't manage to get rid of him the first time, God only knows. He's done 7 years in jail for rape. He's still waiting to be deported, but while he's waiting to be deported, we've put an electronic tag on him and he is claiming compensation because he's depressed. It's depressed him, and it looks as if we might give him the money. Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think he deserves that? Let me know. 03444991000. If anybody phones in and says, yes, it's a great idea, I'm really going to want to talk to you. So let's go to break. Let's talk to all of you and read some of your messages and WhatsApp voice notes when we come back. Stick around.
who would be a better alternative given that Labour MPs and indeed Labour voters, Labour Party members, tend to go for the more left-wing candidate?
Yes, I think for those of us on the right of centre of the spectrum, we should be a bit careful what we wish for here. I believe Ed Miliband is the most popular cabinet minister amongst Labour Party members.
It would be good fun, though. Those 2 weeks before the country imploded would be fun.
We would be back to the banter era. You're absolutely right, Julia.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's play a couple of WhatsApp voice notes, or one to get the ball rolling. This is Jack on Starmer.
Good evening, Kevin. So it would seem that Starmer had the same kind of advisor that Rishi had way back when. If you remember, he left early from the memorial to go and do a TV interview. It rings a little bit close to what's just happened with Starmer, to go and fight his corner to say he's going to lead Labour into the next election.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier. I've got about as much chance of leading Labour into the next election as Keir Starmer has. He's living in cloud cuckoo land. Stephen Barrett saying, a man who knows what he's talking about, saying he reckons they'll be gone very soon, both him and Rachel Reeves. He doesn't think they'll make Christmas. I'll go along with that. I personally think they'll probably get to, or certainly Starmer will make it till the local elections in May. Then they'll kick him out because Labour will get thrashed. And then they can say he's useless and here's our new guy, new woman who's going to make things better. They won't, but that's what I think they'll do, but who knows. Looks like we're reaching some kind of conclusion to this horror story that we've been suffering since last July the 5th, when they got voted in, when they started this government of complete incompetence. Unbelievable. What a mess. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to David in Worcestershire. Hi, David.
Hello.
Hi, David. Hi.
I'm David, yeah.
That's what I said. I said, hi, David.
Yeah, yes, I know, but I'm not in Worcestershire.
Oh, okay. Where are you? Where are you?
Rudgeway, South Gloucestershire.
South Gloucestershire. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Right.
Okay.
Right, okay, what would you like to say, David?
Well, I'm going to be a bit controversial. Well, I'm going to go against the grain. I've been meaning to say this for quite a long time, actually. But I think there should still be a licence fee for the BBC, but it should be just enough to cover the broadcasts of state occasions, such as the Festival of Remembrance and things like that. You know, maybe Christmas carols from Kings, that sort of thing, and obviously correlation.
But so pay for the basics like news and things like that. I mean, this is
not the news. I don't know.
I think you would pay for the news. What you wouldn't pay for,
right, fair enough.
Entertainment. Entertainment, you pay extra, yeah.
No. They'd have to. No, they'd hive the rest of it off. BBC should just be for this sort of thing. Plus, this is my opinion, of course, plus they could bump it up a bit if they could get Test match cricket back onto non-advert television, because when the adverts come on when you're trying to watch Test match cricket, which I don't do because I haven't got Sky or anything, because I don't. I'm quarter Scottish, so I'm a bit tight with the cash. It would kind of jolts you out, doesn't it? It's on a louder volume. Well, they say it isn't on a louder volume. The adverts, they've just enhanced the sound values, which means that it's louder, and it wakes you up.
I've always liked commercials in telly. They give you a chance to do something.
They go,
look around, go and make a cup of tea, have a chat, you know.
No, and go to the toilet.
Yeah, all those things. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. No, it is good to have commercials on anyway. But with the Test matches, you see, between overs, they'd be waffling. Not waffling, obviously commentating.
Astute analysis, I think.
Point out the buses in the background, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you've got time to go to the toilet then usually.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I think the BBC should remain as it is, but we don't pay for it. It pays for itself. If it's so great, then it can either get subscription.
I wouldn't have. I've been kind to them, really. I mean, because that, because it is important to have these things on without adverts, such as the Festival of Remembrance. The other thing, though, if they're going to do that, they during the music when they're marching. They shouldn't waffle away like they but I did write a stinging email once to them, and they did stop actually having on the iPlayer, which I can't access because I've stopped paying my licence fee. On the iPlayer, they do have.
So you don't pay your licence?
No,
you don't pay your licence fee?
No, I defunded them in June. I just hadn't had enough of it all, to be honest, all right?
Right.
Okay, but I'm back to reading newspapers, listening to talk radio.
Good for you. Perfect. What more do you want? What more do you want?
No, exactly. Well, Test match cricket on ITV without commercials, and to be able to watch the Festival of Remembrance, because I kind of.
Yeah, I mean, but to be fair, I think I'm right in saying that when ITV or Channel 4 cover those kind of events, the Remembrance services, they don't put commercials on. But I take your point. I take your point.
But you still have to pay your license fee, don't you? Like,
well, yeah, you do. Yeah, and I think
that's got to go. That's absolutely got to go.
Yeah, right. Well, we agree on that. Let's get rid of the license fee.
But I don't mind chipping in just for those.
So you would pay a much reduced license fee to pay for the basics. I get it.
It should be about maybe 50p a year, or 50p a week.
And they could take that money and buy back Test cricket.
Yeah, something like that. I'm sure.
All right, mate. All right, David.
Yeah, that's fair enough, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, it's very good plan. Very good plan. Very good plan. I like it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling, David. Take care now, David. There with his idea. I mean, I said good idea, but I'm against any. Money at all to pay for watching television or listening to the radio. I'm against the idea. Let's talk to, on the same subject, Trevor in Edinburgh. Hi, Trevor.
Hi, Kevin. I just wanted to phone up and say that I agree entirely with you. It should be scrapped entirely, not compromised or paying for cricket or paying for sport or whatever, because there are other channels who do that already. You've got kind of like other broadcasters, I can't name them, but I know them, and you can go and watch sport like football or cricket like the other chap was talking about. You don't need to watch it on the BBC at all. But here's the thing, the BBC licence, to me, it's like segregation. It's like saying you can go there if you're wearing the right tie, and you can't because you're not. Now, there's all these other networks. There's about 900 channels in Britain now,
Oh, there's as many as that, is it?
How many of them charge a licence fee? Not one.
Well, no, only the BBC. And ironically, of course, you have to, technically, you have to pay for the BBC TV licence in order to watch ITV or listen to Capital Radio or whatever. You have to pay for the BBC TV licence to watch or listen to commercial channels, which seems a bit rotten to me.
Can I say as well, if you watch, now, please listen to this very carefully.
I am.
I believe we're being conned by the BBC. I'll tell you why. When the BBC puts out its programmes onto channels like Dave or You or...
Old shows, yeah. Yeah.
They're all fully adverts. So listen, when they say they're not making money off advertising, if you...
They sort of are down the line. I know what you mean, yeah.
And there's also placement advertising as well. If you watch the BBC carefully, and I do, I watch certain programmes. If you watch, I hate to say names, but if you watch EastEnders, or you watch other big programmes, you will see product placement in all these shows, which the companies pay the money to the BBC for allowing their sauce, their beer, their clothing, their car, their this or their that. So when the BBC says there's free advertising, there's no advertising at all, uninterrupted programmes, well, yes.
Well, they kind of, but, if they flog their programmes today, their old programmes, and those channels put adverts in, the BBC doesn't get money out of those adverts. But I take your point. But I don't think they make money out of commercials. But they make a lot of money out of selling their programmes around the world and to channels like Dave. Then those channels put commercials on. The BBC doesn't make money out of those commercials. They just make money out of selling the programmes. You see what I mean?
Yeah, oh yeah, I get that. But here's the thing, though. You're not going to tell me that a world broadcaster like the BBC cannot fund itself. When it
totally agree. Now, Trevor, I'm with you all the way. The BBC always tells us, oh, look at that remarkable content, brilliant drama, comedy, Strictly Come Dancing, entertainment programmes. It's a fantastic channel. The news, it's marvellous. Well, if you're so marvellous, BBC, why don't you just say subscription, voluntary subscription, and we'll all pay for it. And if we don't want to, we don't have to. The system now that if we don't pay for it we get fined or sent to prison is anachronistic and ridiculous. Trevor, I think we agree on this, so really good call. Thank you very much, Trevor in Edinburgh. Let's go to break. When I come back, more calls, more messages and more WhatsApp voice notes. So much still to come, and then it's Petri Hoskin at 10 p.m. She'll take you through to 1 a.m. into the small hours with Petri. Can't say fairer than that. What a lineup. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Got that slightly wrong. Petri won't be joining you until 11 p.m. because we're returning to Harry Cole Saves the West at 10 p.m. So Harry Cole will be on all the way from America at 10 p.m. For 60 sizzling minutes. Then it's Petri Hoskin from 11 p.m. all the way to 1 a.m. into the small hours. So lots still to come. Let's play a WhatsApp voice note, shall we? This is Ian on Shabana Mahmood.
Hey Kev, news hot off the press that the Home Secretary, after vowing to block people travelling from the UK from Angola, Namibia and Democratic Republic of Congo, unless there is a rapid improvement in the number of returned migrants they accept. Taking a very hard line indeed, she's extended this now to 3 other countries, Narnia, Oz and Middle-earth. If they keep sending these people and don't take them back, she's going to come down really hard on them.
Yeah, we've got a real problem with those people coming in from Narnia and Middle-earth. Couldn't agree with you more, Ian. No, I mean, all this kind of, threatening these countries, or we'll stop, we'll hit you with sanctions unless you take your own people back. I mean, again, that's just fiddling around the edges. Who cares about that? Here's Andy talking about the Turkish rapist who wants compensation for wearing a electronic tag. He says, Andy says, you can't deport this Turkish rapist because he doesn't like Turkish chicken nuggets. It's only a matter of time, I tell you. I'm sure that's probably at the bottom of the reasons why we're not deporting this guy. Unbelievable, unbelievable. Let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Richard in Lancashire. Richard, do you want to talk about something that Richard Tice said earlier, I think on Talk? He said that he thought there was over-diagnosis of neurodivergent kids. You disagree?
Well, yeah, Kev, and thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan of Richard Tice and reform. I agree with a lot of stuff he says, but I think he's perhaps got this a little bit wrong. I think, and this is down to sort of experience as well. My partner, her daughter is autistic, and when she was a baby, she had to really fight tooth and nail to get a diagnosis, to get anyone to pay any attention to her.
How long ago was that, Richard?
That was she's 5 now.
Oh, okay, so not so long ago. Yeah,
not so long ago. Yeah, we're talking probably a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So it's and I think I kind of I understand what he's trying to say. I think he's just not doing himself any favours in terms of how he gets it across. You know, there's lots of kids who do, or parents who do want to push their kids forward and say they've got a label, they've got ADHD. But there's a lot of parents, and mums especially, single mums, who really struggle to get anyone to pay any attention to them. And I just don't think it's fair in terms of what he said.
Well, but you just also said in that same sentence that there are a lot of parents who do push their kids forward and say they're suffering from neurodivergent problems. You just said that, so that's what he was referring to. Of course, like your partner's kid, and like so many children, many genuine cases. But don't you think he's got a case to say? Don't you think Richard Tice has got a point? That it does seem like it's possible that there's over-diagnosis going on in this arena. Don't you think he's got a point?
I think he just needs to articulate it better. I think that's what my point is, that I think he's sort of tarring everyone with the same brush, when in reality, and you know, people I know and their experiences haven't followed that kind of that way that
yeah, but I respect that, and we've got to respect kids, parents, you know, in genuine cases. But he's saying that we have an over-diagnosis problem in this arena. And I think he's got a point, don't you?
Well, I mean, I do. I don't disagree that there are people who
So what's the problem with what he said?
I think it's how he articulates it. He's sort of excluding a lot of people and not taking into account the fact that other people have had issues with being able to get those diagnoses. And I suppose what it does prove is proves that the system is flawed, right? The whole system is flawed. That's what it does prove. So I think my final point is really, I just disagree with how he's articulated.
Fair enough.
He probably needs to think about that.
I'll be honest with you, Richard. I didn't hear Richard Tice earlier. Usually he puts his points very, very well. But if you say that you didn't think he did, I'm sure you got a good point. But I don't think he's out of order to suggest that there are parents who like to climb aboard this bandwagon, and we do have an overdiagnosis problem. I think we have an overdiagnosis of mental health issues as well. We're kind of medicating the entire nation way too much, I think. But as I say, I didn't hear Richard Tice on this issue, and if you say, you know, you've got experience of it, and if you think that he put it badly, I'm sure you've got a good point as well. But you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I absolutely, Kev. I understand what you're saying, and I think it's one of those things that you do get sound bites. There's a danger for politicians to get the sound bite without the context and things like that.
Yeah, you do.
You know,
people like me know all about that. Trust me, we're constantly being clipped. You go, I didn't mean that. But listen, Richard, a good point, and thank you very much for ringing. It's worth bearing that in mind. Let's listen to a WhatsApp voice note, shall we? This is Pete on the licence fee, the BBC licence fee.
If they want to keep the TV licence, what they should be doing is handing out a decoder box or a code, so that if you don't want to watch the BBC, then you don't buy a TV licence. But those that still want to keep handing out vast amounts of money to a company that are never going to change, then let it be. So, you know, they get their privilege to watch it if they're paying for it, but the rest of us don't have to. That does it. That's fair all round, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I just think scrap the whole damn thing altogether and make the BBC pay for itself. Why should it be so special? It's like that John Mayer earlier, nice guy and all that, who thinks that somehow or other the BBC should be excused what all other media organisations have to do. That is, when they've defamed and when they've libelled someone, yes, they have to say sorry, but they also have to pay compensation. Why should the BBC not have to pay compensation? Why should the BBC be allowed just to say sorry? These are the libel laws. They affect everyone, including the God Almighty BBC. BBC's too much of a religion in this country, I think. I mean, you know, I don't know why people are so devoted to it. People say, the best thing about Britain. Arguably, it might be the worst thing. Think about that. Usually, if you turn these things on their heads, they make more sense. The BBC is the best thing about Britain. Let's rewind. The BBC is the worst thing about Britain. Think about that. I'm not necessarily saying that's the case. I'm just saying it's food for thought. This is Fern in Glasgow with a message. This speech of Mahmoud's, Shabana Mahmoud's, is an even bigger pig in a poke than Suella Braverman's. It's a Trojan horse for further invasion. Under her 20-year amnesty, giving them plenty of time to have kids, qualify for the right to family life, it's all a scam. You see, what Fern's saying is really interesting about Shabana Mahmoud's speech yesterday. It wasn't just a speech. She spent all weekend preparing the way. I'm going to crack down migrant crisis. I'm going to solve it and all that. Look at the details of what she said. So many people, you know, even Jonathan Gullis today standing in for Ian Collins, raving about her. At last, this is making sense. Well, I say, let's just hang on a little bit. First of all, I don't think any of it's going to happen. Secondly, if you don't leave the ECHR, forget it. We can't make our own sovereign decisions. You have to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. Shabana doesn't want to do it. And thirdly, and this is what I think Fern is getting at in Glasgow, and I agree with her, if you look at the details, it's arguable that what Shabana Mahmoud said yesterday was an enshrinement. What she laid out was an enshrinement of an eternal asylum seeker system. You have to wait 20 years before you're allowed to apply for citizenship. We'll review you every 3 years to check whether or not your country is still at war. No proposals about stopping the boats, turning them around, deporting people, just proposals about what to do about the asylum seekers when they're here for the years to come. Safe routes, we'll set up safe and legal routes, hubs in foreign countries. See what I mean? Was that really a crackdown, or did she deliver to us Labour's system, its mechanism for continuing the migrant crisis, the asylum seeker situation, for many, many years to come, possibly eternity? Was she cracking down, or was she enshrining our open borders? 03444991000. I think we got played a 3-card trick yesterday, I really do. Let's go to Josie in Leicester. Hi Josie, what would you like to say?
Hi, yeah, well, I think Keir Starmer has definitely thrown her under the bus. She came on saying we're going to do this, do that. It's all about his human rights, lawyers and his scams. This is not going to work. It never will. And the fact that she brought up Albania, why? Why, when there's like only 3 million there? So we've got the most people that come in under Boris wave, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Tell me why. Why do they keep going back there? What is it about the people that she thinks that are governing our country that they cannot see under their noses? And Keir Starmer knows exactly what he did yesterday. He threw her straight under lies. It's all about lies. Human rights lawyers are never, ever, unless we leave this ECHR law that he wrote a book on.
So he loves his human rights. He loves the ECHR. We'll never leave the European Convention on Human Rights as long as Keir Starmer's in charge. But that might not be very much longer, Josie, with a bit of luck.
I seriously, this is all a scam. And 20-year thing about people coming into the country, staying here. What, for 20 years? They're going to stay here for what?
Yeah, and by the way, this idea that every 18 months, every 3 years, we'll check on people's countries. So they come here saying, my country's at war, I'm escaping war. So Shabana Mahmood wants a system now by which we monitor those countries. We go back to the migrants after 3 years and say, well, your country's not at war anymore, so we're deporting you back to your home country. Can you see that coming off? That is never going to happen, is it?
No, Pakistan's not at war.
Well, who's going to decide whether or not a country is at war? I mean, for example, Josie, if we had Gazans here, Palestinians here, you know, Gaza allegedly is now at peace. There's a peace deal. There's a ceasefire going on. So arguably, the Gaza war is over. So we would send asylum seekers from Gaza back to Gaza. Have you seen Gaza lately? It is a massive war zone. Everybody's shooting each other. It is not at peace. So deciding whether or not a country is at war, I think, will be a very difficult process. And it's not going to happen. So much of what she said yesterday is never going to happen. So I agree with you. Josie, good call. Thanks for ringing. Josie in Leicester. One more WhatsApp voice note. This is Dan. Another one on the licence fee is getting a lot of traction today. On the licence fee, here's Dan.
If I don't pay my TV licence, yeah, will I get put in prison where I can watch BBC for free? That's weird, isn't it?
So hang on, that's a good idea. So if you go to prison, you don't have to pay, you can watch the BBC, you don't have to pay for the TV licence. Problem solved. I can see one or two downsides to Dan's argument, but it's interesting. In prison, you don't have to pay for your licence fee. I guess the prison would, though, wouldn't it? Yeah, I mean, you know, like an overall licence fee. If you've got a big building, by the way, I just wonder about this. So I don't know this, maybe someone does. If you've got a hotel, say, with loads and loads of tellies in it, obviously, room by room by room, or a prison, lots and lots of tellies, do you have to pay, you know, a different kind of licence fee, a much bigger licence fee, to multiple use and all that? Or is it 180 quid? Because if it's 180 quid or £179.50 or whatever it is right now for an entire hotel, that doesn't seem right, does it? I don't know. I genuinely don't know what the answer to that question is. Meanwhile, still on the BBC, let's talk to Simon in Leeds. Hi, Simon.
Hiya, you all right?
Yeah, I'm good. What would you like to say?
Yeah, it's real. I mean, I haven't had a TV licence now for 17 years, but what I really want to talk about regarding the BBC is, I would say what BBC has done to President Trump is the worst thing any
well, I agree. I know what you're getting at, Simon, and I couldn't agree with you more. You know, people, defenders of the BBC, apologists for our state broadcast, are going, oh, come on, you know, we said sorry, leave it at that. Oh, he wasn't really defamed. The BBC saying, oh, we don't believe the president has a case for defamation. They accused him falsely of calling for revolution, for violent insurrection in America. I can't think of a worse libel than that, can you?
So where is Ofcom? Why hasn't Ofcom said
well,
anything?
I guess to be technical about it, I don't know what the score is here. Ofcom requires complaints. It requires a complaint or several complaints or hundreds of complaints, sometimes thousands of complaints. But it requires at least one complaint from a viewer or a listener in order to swing into action. So I don't know what the score is with Ofcom in terms of complaints it may have received on this. But if it has received complaints, I presume it will be taking a look at the case. But I think more importantly, Simon, right now, of course, is the president's proposed $5 billion lawsuit. I understand that Donald Trump, the president of the United States of America, is incandescent with rage about what Panorama did to him, and he. This idea is not defamation. If I said what they're saying in essence. It's about, if I said about you, Simon is a traitor who called for a violent insurrection to overthrow the government in this country. You would take a dim view of me saying that about you, wouldn't you?
Most certainly, and I would, and because of who you are and what you do, I would take up legal action.
Yeah. I mean, but what we're agreeing on here, Simon, is the BBC's lawyers, a lot of supporters of the BBC, saying, "Oh, come on, it's not much. It's not really defamation. It's not all that bad. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's about the worst libel I can think of."
Yeah, it is. It is. It is the worst. It is the worst libel that anybody could have done.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
And I know what you're saying, but surely, as the BBC's regulator, because that is what...
Well, it's not just the BBC's regulator, it's all broadcasters regulators.
Well, yeah,
it regulates talk as well as...
Yeah, exactly. But
I'm only too well aware of that.
Yeah, and then they also regulate the editorial standards as well.
Yeah, they do.
You would think that they would be on
they might be, Simon. As I say, the Ofcom... because of its constitution, it does not step in independently. It does not make a decision to investigate something that they think may be wrong. It has to be triggered by an official complaint. So if you, Simon, one complaint...
I will be doing.
All right, you do that, and then it will have to swing into action. And let me know how you get on, all right?
All right, then, no problem.
Well done, Simon. Good to talk to you, mate.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for an excellent call. It is interesting. I don't know whether Ofcom have received complaints, but if so, I assume they'll be investigating, although it seems somewhat spurious if the BBC might have to cough up $1 billion or something. Here's a text message from Matt in Grimsby. He says, "Hi Kev, enough is enough. So much talk and getting nowhere on immigration. We need to declare a national emergency and let the army get on with it." I'm not entirely sure what the army could do, but a lot of people feel that we sort of shrug our shoulders about our migrant crisis when it does seem to present a national emergency. You look at the people around Wethersfield, the people in Braintree and Colchester and Chelmsford we were talking about earlier. You know, all these young guys being bussed into their towns. They would say they've got an emergency on their hands. The mess, the chaos of our migrant crisis, the hotels, what is it? It's 32,000 asylum seekers in something like over 200 hotels all around the country, plus places like Wethersfield, plus houses of multiple occupation. I think I'm right in saying generally, all told, there's over 100,000 asylum seekers waiting to be processed. That is pretty chaotic and arguably an emergency. So good point. Let's talk to Jane in Marbella. Hello, Jane.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very, very well. What would you like to say?
Good. Right. I think people are under the impression that the BBC only receive remuneration from the licence. This is nonsense.
Well, they sell a lot of programmes, but is it BBC Lionheart sells BBC programmes around the world, and that makes zillions and billions of pounds.
Around the world, and they get fortunes in.
You're right. It does have that. Now, given that, if you think about it, Jane, I've got no objection to the BBC doing that. If they make good programmes and channels around the world want to buy those programmes, then good for the BBC. But it proves that the BBC is creating content that is valuable. So why can't it sort of sell it to the public? Look, if you want to watch the BBC, it's a subscription fee like Netflix or something.
Absolutely. It should be, I don't know, £10, £20 a programme or whatever.
£20 a programme. Well, what BBC programmes would you spend 20 quid on? I can't think of one offhand, but...
Well, I've got to tell you, in Spain, we lost Freeview about 8 years ago, and we cannot get the BBC legally.
Well, so you can't get it easily out there. Lucky you. Lucky you.
Lucky me, absolutely.
Jane, listen, go on, one quickly.
People just don't seem to appreciate the syndication worldwide.
It's a huge organisation, BBC Lionheart. Their syndication department does make one hell of a lot of money, and I think that they should switch that syndication to Britain, sell us the products that they make. Subscription channel, we'll pay if we want to, and if we don't, we won't. It's called commerce. That's what the BBC should be interested in and introduced to. Jane, I've got to go, but excellent call as always. Jane from Marbella in Spain there. And that pretty much brings an end to this excellent show. It's been very, very lively, very eventful. Oh, by the way, special announcement. I'm not on tomorrow night. Samara Gill, my brilliant producer, will take over the helm. I'm on drive time, so I'm doing 4 o'clock until 7 p.m. tomorrow right here on Talk. I expect you to join me and Samara later on. Great show. Harry Cole is next. See you tomorrow.